Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and welcome to the Legal Matters. And in today's session, we would like to discuss about one of the recent order from Supreme Court about how to appoint election commissioner for state elections. It's basically totally went unnoticed because of the Bengal election and so much news coming from Bengal. This particular order is very important for our democracy. And to discuss this further, let me invite my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for inviting me and for allowing me to speak on this topic. Yes, it's a very important judgment delivered on 12th of March by the Supreme Court in the matter of State of Goa versus Fozia Imtiaz Sheikh. And certainly it is very important with respect to the democratic process and the conduct of free and fair elections, which form the bedrock of the democratic country. So certainly I'm looking forward for the discussion on this judgment.
Yes, Jeet. In fact, election commission is a very important aspect of our democracy because during the election, when the elections are being conducted, election commission really is the government. They own everything during those period of a month or so in a particular state or in a particular area where the elections are going on, and election commissioner of that election is the de facto ruler of that particular state for those many days. So, Supreme Court has ruled that you cannot have government officials as election commissioner. What is the impact of that, and how it affects us, and what are the long-lasting implications of this particular ruling? We would like to know from you.
Yes, Chandrakant. In fact, what the Constitution envisages is that to have a independent, impartial body, which is known as the Election Commission of India, with respect to the Lok Sabha and the state legislature elections, with respect to the municipal and panchayat and corporation elections, there is a state election commission. So there are two election commissions. One is the Election Commission of India, and the other is the State Election Commissions. The provisions for both are different, but the purpose and the effect is similar, and uh, the purpose is to conduct a fair and impartial and free election, because that is the most important aspect of a democratic country. So, in furtherance of this purpose, these two election commissions are set up under the Constitution, and State Election Commission overlooks the entire elections with regards to the municipal councils, the municipal corporations, and the panchayat. Now, the power given to these election commissions under both the Election Commission of India and the State Election Commission is the superintendence, direction, and control over the entire conduct of the election procedure. So they play a very important role in our constitutional setup and also our democratic setup. And as you know, we have a three-tier democratic system wherein the central government is at the central level, the state government at the state level, and the local government bodies, which are either a gram panchayat, a municipal council, or a municipal corporation, based on whether it's a village, a smaller urban area, or a larger urban area, respectively. So every larger urban area will have a municipal corporation. A smaller to larger intermediate urban area would have a municipal council, and the villages would have a village panchayat, because that is the principle of Swaraj, and which was envisaged and developed by the father of our nation, Gandhiji, who believed in the concept of Swaraj so much that the entire freedom movement was also based on this very important principle of Swaraj, self-rule. So every smallest town, village, smaller urban area, larger area, state, country, it has a elected government and representative who work for them and for the betterment of every area of the country. So therefore, based on this principle, the the functions of election commission are absolutely important. Now, how this judgment and how this matter reached the Supreme Court is also very interesting. Is because the is the governor of Goa had on 3rd November 2020 appointed the law secretary of the government of Goa, a member of the IAS, as the state election commissioner uh, to fulfill the duties as the election commissioner. Now, the municipal elections for municipal councils were to be held in the month of uh, February 2021 in Goa, but they were postponed by the election commissioner due to COVID, and it were to be held in April 2021. But on 4th of February 2021, the director issued a notification with respect to reservation for women and other backward candidates, and also for delimitation with regards to wards. Now, this was issued, uh, which came to be challenged before the High Court because it provided for the percentage of reservation not in accordance with the constitutional provision. Because the Constitution prescribed that not less than one third of the seats should be reserved for women. So one third means 33%. So what this notification provided is where there were 20 seats, 6 seats were reserved for women. So 6 seats out of 20 would be around 33, less than around 31 to 32%, but it would be less than 33%, 33.33. So the Bombay High Court on this issue uh, gave a detailed judgment saying that this violates the provision of the Constitution because this is not in accordance with the percentage prescribed, as the Constitution provides it shall not be less than one third of the total number of seats. So if it is 20 and there has to be a fraction, so if 6 is say 31%, then it is less than 33%. So then you have to make it more than 6, so you have to make it 7. So similarly, if there is 25 total seats and you provide for 8 seats, so that is again not 33%. So if there is a fraction, so say 7.33 or 7.6, then you have to make it 8. Or if it is 8.33, you have to make 9 seats because it can't be less than 33%. So this is what the Bombay High Court held. But what interesting aspect also, and what the Supreme Court held, was that there was an overreach of the process of law. What the SEC and the director did in that matter, the commissioner, that the High Court had reserved the matter for final hearing on 22nd of February 2021. Now, on 22nd February 2021 at 9 a.m. in the morning, they issued a notification declaring the election to be conducted. So whenever a notification for commencing of the election is already declared, the High Court is bereft of its power to exercise or to even hear the matter, entertain the matter, as per the provisions of the Constitution itself. Because what the Constitution provides is that the election, once commenced, has to be quickly ended and ultimately resulted into the result has to be declared. And if there is any illegality or anything, if any person is affected or aggrieved, then he has a remedy to challenge it by way of an election petition, which is also prescribed under the acts. So the elections should go smoothly. The elections should not be interrupted by approaching courts other than what is prescribed under the law. And therefore, an election once completed, only thereafter illegalities can be challenged by way of an election petition. So this was what is provided. So for the High Court not to entertain the SEC and the director on 22nd of February in the morning 9 a.m. when the offices start at 9:30, they started their office early and only to see that the High Court does not entertain and decide this matter, they issued this notification commencing the election. And this was done again going against the statement made by the Advocate General of the state, who said that we will not do it. So, despite that, they issued this notification in the morning, and this is what the division bench of the Bombay High Court in the held against them, saying that this is malice in law and this is trying to overreach the process of court, and still declared this notification of 4 to 2021 to be bad, illegal, and against the provisions of the Constitution with respect to the reservation of seats for women. Now, this matter reached the Supreme Court as the state of Goa preferred an appeal under Article 136 of the Constitution. And the Supreme Court, in its judgment on 12th of March, clearly held certain aspects which are most important. And it said that the appointment of the state election commissioner, of an officer of the government, is a violation of the mandate of the Constitution. because a state election commissioner is appointed under Article 243K, and 243K provides that the superintendent's direction and control of the preparation of electoral rolls, the conduct of all elections to the panchayat and to the municipal council shall be vested in the state election commission. So, so his role is very important and crucial because he undertakes the entire superintendent's direction and control of the entire election process. Also, what is the Supreme Court interpreted the provision was that he cannot be removed from his service except in accordance to the procedure which is provided for the removal of a high court judge. So the for removal of a high court judge, the impeachment proceedings are taken. So therefore, so there should not be any threat on them that they can be removed at the whims. They are not serving uh, at the whims and fancies of the government. So therefore, this protection is given to state election commissioner as well. And it is also provided that his conditions of service are also not to be varied to his disadvantage after his appointment. So once he is appointed, he cannot be removed unless by a procedure by which a high court judge can be removed, and his conditions of service also cannot be varied to his disadvantage. So these are the protections given to him because of the nature of his function and duties that are imposed upon him by way of the constitutional provision and the importance attached to his position. So therefore, the role is absolutely independent, impartial, and neutral. And if he is a government employee, then that violates the mandate under the Constitution. And therefore, the Supreme Court, in this matter, also provided and held, I may just read the important para of the Supreme Court judgment, which Supreme Court says that the most disturbing feature of these cases is the subversion of the constitutional mandate contained in Article 243K of the Constitution. The state election commissioner has to be a person who is independent of the state government, as he is an important constitutional functionary who is to oversee the entire election process in the state for panchayat and municipalities. The importance given to the independence of a state election commissioner is explicit from the provision for removal from his office made in the proviso to clause 2 of Article 243K. Insofar as the manner and the ground for his removal from the office is concerned, he has been equated with a judge of a high court. Giving an additional charge of such an important and independent constitutional office to an officer who is directly under the control of the state government is, in the view of the Supreme Court, a mockery of the constitutional mandate. So therefore, the Supreme Court declared that the additional charge given to the law secretary to the government of the state flouts the constitutional mandate of Article 243K. The state government was directed to remedy this position by appointing an independent person to be a state election commissioner at the earliest, and such person cannot be a person who holds any office or post in the central or any state government. It was also made clear that henceforth, in all state election commissioners appointed under Article 243 in the length and breadth of the country in India have to be independent persons who cannot be persons who are occupying a post or office under the central or any state government. And if there are any such persons holding the post of state election commissioner in any other state, such person must be asked forthwith to step down from such office, and the state government concerned be bound to fulfill the constitutional mandate of Article 243K by appointing only independent persons to this high constitutional office. And the direction contained were given under Article 142, which power the Supreme Court has to give directions which are.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live, and my name is Chandrakant. Olympic has ended yesterday in a spectacular finale, and many athletes competed with each other, and they were really the best among the best, selected from various countries, and they competed for the ultimate title. And many have actually achieved their dreams.
and many are learning new lessons and will come again if possible after 4 years and compete again. I think for all of us there is a lesson for us to understand in all of this, and to discuss this matter, what we can learn from Olympic athletes. I will be joined by a very special guest today in the studio from UK. So I will join you back along with my guest in a moment after a few messages. Welcome back, friends, and I'm very honored and pleased to have Mr. Naval Gun to be part of our discussion today. And he is also the chairman of MindFit Limited, and very pleased and honored to have him for this very important discussion. Welcome to the show, Naval.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Yes, the Olympics. All I can say is, wow, 2 weeks of full on. Every athlete that's known around the world, every team that's known around the world, all went to Tokyo a year late. Now we have to remember it's a year late. It was 2020 when these Olympics should have been going on, and interestingly enough, they only knew 6 weeks before they were supposed to be going to Tokyo that it was going to be delayed for a year. So we've immediately learned one thing about resilience, the letdown. And if people know anything about the Olympics, and athletes in particular, is that they really do spend an awful lot of time managing their diaries, their energies, right the way through to peak at that Olympic week, 2 weeks. And it happens every 4 years, apart from when COVID happens, and it didn't happen last year. So can you just imagine? One thing we can learn is we can imagine, or can we imagine, what all these athletes went through when they'd done all their preparation, they were ready to peak their performance at that particular time, and then they said, really sorry about this, but we can't do anything but delay for a year. What do you think of that, CK?
Well, Naval, I think it's a very important point that you've raised. And in fact, it's not only that. I think the entire world was having affected by the COVID pandemic. And many sports people were also under quarantine because of, they are going to the stadium and practicing, and then got infected with coronavirus. And in fact, I know for sure that one of Indian athlete was diagnosed positive just one day before she was supposed to take the flight. And incidentally, she has won one of the medal. I think she has won the silver medal. So this has happened. And it's very important. I think this is something that we all wait for 4 years, for the entire world to compete and celebrate these sports. And that is why Tokyo Olympic was very, very important event for the entire world. And one more thing I'd like to tell the viewers is that, we are right now live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can engage with us live by sending messages directly, and your messages will come directly on our screen. So Naval, I think this is what I feel. It was very, very critical. This Olympic was very critical for the entire world and to come together and compete.
Oh, you're absolutely right, CK. And all I was making a point was you build yourself up over a 4-year period, and you get all your diet right, you get your reactions right, you compete in the right races, you miss home life, you travel all over the world to get to the right competitions so that you're at your peak of fitness, and then someone says, I'm sorry, it's just a delay. It's only a year, go back. Well, for some of these athletes, they didn't actually make it to that year because they were a little bit older, let's say, And in fact, one of the interesting ones, Jason Kenny, who won the most Olympic medals that any British person has ever won, and he crowned it off with a gold in a race where he wasn't expected to win. And he basically said, "I'm not the fastest, but I'm going to give it a go." And it was an interesting race because it was over a series of events that they had to do, and you had to pass one event to get to the next, and then into the final. And then in the final, he just literally took the world by storm. In fact, he took all the commentators by surprise. And he went for it. He's a cyclist, and he went for it. And he went for it 3 laps out. And the commentator said, he's gone already. And you could hear the surprise in people that were really experienced of saying, well, maybe he's going to get caught. And of course he didn't get caught because he just motored away and he beat the rest of the world. And in his interview afterwards, it was absolutely fantastic because he said, I came to this Olympic Games thinking these were my last hours of competing at this level. And as the games went on, clock was going down because he just expected this was the last Olympics. And he said, and here I am sitting with a gold. I never expected a gold. So, maybe Paris, who knows? So it was quite interesting. Was one of the things that you alluded to, CK, emotions. Everybody over the last 18 months has been through a tremendous emotional roller coaster. And as one of the commentators said, literally as the Olympics was closing, in the interviews after everyone, whether they won or they came last, it didn't matter. But in the interviews, what they were hearing all of the time was the emotional effort that was coming out. The fact the games had been delayed, the fact that there were no supporters there, the fact that everyone had either know someone that lost somebody in the last year or lost somebody in the last year. And it made it that much more important for them to win the gold, silver, bronze, or even just partake for somebody else. And it was this humility that was running through all of these athletes. Of course, they were doing it from themselves, but they were hugely appreciative of the amount of support that everyone gave them. Family, friends, investors, the Olympic committees of the relevant countries, and even some people had crowdfunded their way to get to the Olympics. I know 2 or 3 people on the British team that didn't have government type funding, charitable funding from the Olympic Committee in the UK, and they crowdfunded. So that's what it means to some of these people. But let's look at that lesson. Empathy, emotions. We'll stick with the letter E. I think they're going to call this the emotional games. And it will probably go down in history as being called the emotional games. Because I don't know about you, CK, but I've played, when I was a lot younger, I played team sports. And it was always great when you had a crowd. And there was literally the only crowd that was in any of these Olympics were your mates or the competitors or the referees, the adjudicators, the scorers, the markers. There was no public there at these games. I mean, that must have been a really tough thing to do when an athlete is just wanting the crowd to will them on a bit.
Absolutely, Neville. In fact, this time the cheering and all the crowd and the hooting, if it was allowed in Olympics, was missing. And I think you made very vital point. I think one point I'll make from my side, and that is the self-discovery of India. India is a very new nation. We got independence in 1947, and since then we were struggling with various issues within the country. So, like poverty and population, etc. But this time in the Olympics, we have evolved from a single sport nation to a multi-sport nation. That's really emotional for most of the Indians, because so far India was known as world champions in cricket. But this time, we've got medals in athletics, we've got medal in boxing, weightlifting. So now there is a lot of different state governments are sponsoring. They are actually opening up all across the country, training facilities and all that. So it's a journey of self-discovery also for a nation like India, which is also growing, and now improving the odds and moving up the ladder from a single sport to a multi-sport nation. But I think the key question that I wanted to ask you today, Naval, is that how we can actually take inspiration from all these athletes. And you mentioned some of these keywords like empathy, resilience, empowerment, just some time back. How we can implement all of these learnings into business, and what is our key learning points for our business so that we can be successful?
Yeah, it's a great question, CK. And there are thousands of things we can take into our business arena, or being an entrepreneur, or even if you're at school, really bring you on to do the best you can. And the way I look at this is we saw the ceremonies for the gold, silver and bronze. I mean, these are the people at their absolute best in their own chosen sport. But we often forget that to get to the 100-meter final, there was 2 semi-finals and 4 heats behind the. And if you've got 8 runners in each one, so you do the maths, So there's 7. Effectively, there are 7 races that include the final. So there are 56 that start to get right down to the last 8. However, the one that came last, the person that came 50th, was there because they wanted to be there. They wanted to compete. They wanted to put their wits against everybody else. And yeah, there was a lot of people that didn't have any chance at all of winning. Point is, they had the grit, they had the resilience to get there. They wanted to compete on the world stage and go and learn how others do it. And I think this is where we can learn a lot in business. It's that collaborative arena. Put yourself into places where you might find it difficult, but learn from others, watch from others, see how they do it. Look at the preparation. I mean, someone said, there's not a lot to running, really. There's a track, which you don't own, and there's your spikes, your shorts, and your shirt, and that's it. There are no other aids here, There's nothing at all. And so it's you, and it's how good your shoes are, and everyone's got the same opportunity to get the same shoes, and it's your trousers, your shirt. And therefore you really are, person against person, man against man, woman against woman. And so we can really learn a lot about that courage, I suppose, another word, to put yourself in a situation where you're expected to lose. But it doesn't matter about everybody else. You're there for a reason. You've got that reason. And the other thing is, I saw in this games a lot more. I mean, there were lots of team sports anyway, but there were a lot of mixed sports. And in 3 years' time in Paris, because it's a shorter period next time, so these athletes have got to be even more resilient because they've only got 3 years to practice for the next Olympics. But some of the sports are changing. And what we saw is that there's more mixed games going on. So in the modern pentathlon, they're talking about having a team game. In the pentathlon itself that's going to be changing. They did the 3-day eventing, which is a team game, but it's a mixed team game. So it's where men and women are coming more and more to the stage. And even in the swimming, we saw mixed fours, 2 men and 2 women for the very first time. So I think the games are changing and they're reflecting what's going on in the rest of the world. Men and women are equal, so let's put them against each other and have some fun. And that's where the Olympics is moving. So there's lots of lessons that can be learned here. And another one is a 13-year-old, a young girl in the British team. She got a bronze medal. Amazing. Never expected to get a medal. And 13 years old. And in skateboarding, another new sport that's been brought in. And the delight on her face at the end of it. She does this for fun. But when we talk about fun, it's worth listening to her interviews, actually. She's called Sky Brown. She's all over. She's already got 1 million followers she's all over YouTube. And just listen to the excitement and the exhilaration in her voice at 13 years old. I mean, imagine in 10 years' time, if she keeps that excitement and exuberance and resilience that she's got already. Imagine what she'd be doing. She'd probably be, running the whole Olympics, frankly. I mean, that's the type of person that we're seeing coming through, which is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So there's CK. I mean, you saw most of the Olympics. What lessons do you think businesses can learn?
Well, I think one observation I have, and I actually wanted to ask you that before I actually answer your question. And the observation that I have personally, I may be wrong also, is that the bronze winners were much more happier than silver and gold.
Well, I say this all the time. If you're on the medal rostrum, what effort's gone into it. A lot of the gold medal winners were expected to get gold, but that doesn't make it any easier. Again, Jason Kenny, he is the number 1 Olympian in the UK. Between him and his wife, they have 12 medals on the shelf at home. I mean, it's not bad for a family, in the Olympics, is it really? But he said the Olympics is a time for him to reflect on what he's already achieved. And he looks back and he thinks, well, it was a lot easier then than it is now, because the one now is really hard. And I think that's the difference, I suppose. It's the question is, are you prepared to put in that effort? I mean, let's not forget that these people know what it is that they have to go through to get to the Olympics. But to win a medal, they're almost superhuman. Their routine, and they don't take time off. I mean, this is where people think, they just put in a few weeks' effort just before the games, go to the odd tournament around the country and around the world, join in the World Games and things like that. No, this is a full-time job for them. This is 24/7. They have to eat the right thing. They have to practice on a regular basis. They have to push themselves a little harder on occasions just to see what their body's doing. I mean, I saw some of the cyclists, and they had electrodes all over them, measuring the sensors that were measuring in their body when they were doing certain things, so that they were getting lots and lots of data and lots of information to improve their way forward. So let's not take this too lightly. This is their life. This is their business. They don't have a sideline that's going on. They probably do now. They can probably sell a lot of, Jason Kenny T-shirts or something. But this is their life. This is their business. And I think that's what we can also learn from the athletes. And you may be right. There are lots of smiley faces for that bronze. because the bronze is probably the one that's more up for grabs. You know, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 people that are in for the gold. And if they're not in the gold, then there's no guarantee that they'll get the silver or the bronze, because now there's another part of the field that can actually get up there and do their personal best and get a silver. And we saw that in the men's 1500 meters on Sunday, I think it's Saturday. The British guy that got the silver medal, got bronze medal, was literally about half an inch off the tape for the silver medal. But he did his personal best. And when we talk about personal best, we're talking about, you know, marginal gains. But he knocked 2 seconds off his personal best. Now that's massive, absolutely massive, when these people are pounding it out day in, day out. And he was absolutely delighted. He was the happiest man on the planet at that point, I can assure you. Far happier than the guy that got gold or silver. You could see PK, you know? Those that get the bronze probably are a lot happier. And then the reality is, said, oh, can I go for the silver and the gold? Have I got what it takes to marginally change what I've done to get that silver or get that gold? But a medal's a medal. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. And, you know, lots of people came fourth. And they were obviously disappointed at coming fourth. But there's no disgrace in coming fourth, frankly. The effort that people have put in, and a lot of the commentators and interviewers after delved into what it meant to come fourth. You know, those standings are out there forever. But yes, as I say, there's so much we can learn from these Olympic Games that we could probably go on for the rest of the day.
Well, Neville, I think the top 4 teams are best among the best. I think there's no doubt about it. And I think the personal learning that I got from all these athletes this time, and because I was heavily involved watching on the TV, because Indians were competing across the board this time among many tournaments. That is that these people who are actually competing, they don't have any other life other than these sports. They are so focused, you know. Let's talk about wrestling, you know. They get up in the morning, they do their exercise for 4 hours, they eat the right food, what they have to do, they sleep, again they do, get up in the evening, do the same thing. And day in, day out, for years, they keep doing it. Get up, exercise, eat, sleep, exercise, eat, sleep, with no other thing to do, you know. So I think, you know, same is true for cyclists, same is true for anything else. So I think other than having a resilience, I think the focus and discipline is also very important. And we can, you know, copy that from these athletes in our business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, most of the athletes have this sleep, eat, train, repeat. Sleep, eat, train, repeat. And that's it. That's their calendar. Not 5 days a week, 7 days a week. You know, family birthdays may miss. Their own birthdays they may miss, because they could be at a tournament in a particular place that they need to be at to test something, to try something out. So, you know, when we hear about young people going into classrooms and they said, oh, not another exam. These athletes have an exam every day, you know, and it doesn't matter where they are, because they put them through themselves. This is 24/7. That's one thing. Another thing we can learn from here. This is about focus, absolute focus. And the goal, it could be 4 years away. There will be tournaments in between. You know, there's the European Championships, there's the Commonwealth Games, there's the World Games. So there's lots of big championships that you can try yourself out. But there's nothing more than an athlete wants to do than to compete at the Olympics. So they will forfeit some of these other events to make sure that they're in the right tone, the right frame of mind to be at the Olympics. And I think there's a couple of things that we can also pick up from. Mental health at this Games. It's been absolutely at the forefront. We've seen a big American gymnast pulled out of the team event because she wasn't in the right place. And it went huge. It was massive. And decided that what they would do was forfeit the 200 or the 100 and run the 4x100 relay because they thought, actually, I need to do it for the team. So this is a massive sacrifice that some of these people made. And we will read about this in the papers, across the globe over the next few weeks, about the sacrifices that people do make. But they were making personal sacrifices at the Games. And maybe it's been done before, but I'd never heard of it. This time around, we have heard of it. So mental health, absolutely paramount. We saw a number of people that suffered through that mental health. And the reason for that is this is their job. This is 24/7. The pressure's on. The press are constantly looking at you being our gold medal hope. And it's our gold medal hope. Not you as a person, it's you're representing our country. You will get a gold medal. Imagine all that pressure. It's really tough being, at that level, and all credit to them. And I hope they keep smiling for a long time.
Absolutely, Naval. I think there are a lot of learnings, and as you explained in our discussion today, I think one thing I'd like to add in the end, that is, I would like to see cricket also being included into Olympics.
Oh yes, absolutely. We've got basketball and we've got baseball now. And interestingly enough, the Japanese won the baseball, beat the Americans in the final, which I thought was amazing. But cricket, yes, let's have cricket. There are lots of nations that play cricket now, so why not have that on the agenda? And they could do the 100. It's I've been watching that interestingly and avidly over the last 2 or 3 weeks since it started here, and it's exciting. They mix, you don't know who's on what team. They mix it all up, and it's just 100 balls, so you can get through that very quick, and it's all timed, and you can't run out of time here or there. There's penalties. You lose the chance to bowl, and it's really exciting. So yeah, there's lots of ways we can bring cricket in. I'm all for that, CK. Maybe not Paris, because all those disciplines have been decided, but maybe the next one.
Yes, Naval, I think we had a very interesting discussion today. I didn't see any comments from anyone, but in case somebody tries to reach out to us with a specific question, we will actually pass it on to you, or we can take that up in the next episode. So thank you so much, Naval, for coming over and talking to us about this important thing, which is like taking inspiration from all these young athletes. All the business people must have it today. And that is why I think there is a learning for all of us. So Neville, I like to say goodbye today, only to catch you tomorrow on something more interesting.
Cheers, CK. Enjoy, everybody.
Hello friends, COP26 is going on in Glasgow. There are a lot of decisions to be made in order to protect our environment, and a lot of discussions happened for past 2 weeks. Finally, the meeting is coming to an end. there were draft presented, and there were draft what was also discussed among people, the member countries. The India and China are, in addition to other 21 countries, are part of like-minded developing countries. And so far, the bone of contention in terms of bringing the whole global community on a agreement has been that since the time of industrial revolution, the developed countries have been spoiling the nature. They have been adding the coal fire and the gases produced into the atmosphere, and that has created a situation where our temperature is going to increase by 2.7 degrees, and that is creating global warming. So now to sort of say that, hey, everyone is responsible and you guys are adding to the environment, it's not true. So this is where the disagreement happened. I'm very, very happy to bring this to your notice that finally the agreement is in sight, where the committee has considered India's point of view, which are basically three. Now, if you look at the major pollution, these are three things which brings major pollution. One is the thermonuclear, thermal electric power plants. These thermal electric power plants burn coal and produce electricity. So, what are the options? You have other options like solar and all that, and also nuclear power, which is clean, which is supposed to be clean, but it has a lot of hazards in terms of in case there is an accident in nuclear power. So I think we will not go there, but let's stick to these three areas. So one is the thermal power generation, second is the airlines, and third is the personal cars. So these are the major contributors of pollution into the atmosphere. So while India as a country is doing a lot, with especially large population base, and a major chunk of the population is living below poverty line. So India has done in the past 4 or 5 years or 7 years, they have brought all these poor people by providing them LPG connections, heavily subsidized, so that they can move away from biomass, burning biomass into LPG, which is less polluting. While this is subsidized and it is less polluting, as per the COP26 agenda, to get out of the fossil fuel completely is not practical, not viable, and it can be done in a phased manner because, as a country like India, we have brought certain people to a level. Now we have to take the other level, attain the other level of net zero. And with 1.3 billion people, it is not something like you can do just like that. It has to be planned. It has to be done gradually. And India has about 20% population of the world, a substantial population, and therefore there are two things which have been agreed now, which is bring down the target of 2.7 degrees to 1.5 degrees as per India. Because India is saying that it has to be done in a phased manner, considering a huge chunk of population that resides in India. The second one is reducing the carbon emission and also helping developing countries. There has to be a fund created, and the fund will be created by the developed countries. And earlier, that fund was, as per the Paris discussion few years back, the fund was also agreed upon, but that was a piddly amount of $100 billion, which is nothing. So India has been saying that you should create as quickly as possible a fund of $1 trillion, and that can be utilized to fund the developing countries without hampering their growth, because now it's their time to grow, and you can't say, hey, don't grow because you're going to spoil the environment. We will actually adapt to a lot of these technologies which are available, and therefore these two conditions have been agreed. So now the agreement which is coming out from COP26 is visible. It is going to be a reality. That means the world is going to gradually reduce their carbon emission. All of us, all, whether you're developing countries or developed countries, migrate to solar or hydropower to generate your electricity. These are the main things. And as it is, traveling is reduced because of COVID. but I think we need to adapt newer technology to travel between country A to country B, because these aeroplanes which are running currently on the jet fuel are the one of the biggest contributor to the pollution. So we need to get to new technology using electricity or whatever, because there are a lot of development already going on. So considering the progress, the COP26 showed the way that this is something that which we agree on, and the India's point of view has been inserted in the final draft, which is creation of a 1 trillion fund, environment fund, by the developed countries, and the target of achieving net zero or 2.7 degrees increase in temperature brought down to 1.5 degrees, and so that the move away strategy from burning fossil fuel to electricity, etc., can be done in a very phased manner. Friends, do write in your comment. This is an important subject, and I will respond to each one of you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today we will talk about the link between uh, elections which will be held in this year in United States and Pakistan situation as a FATF grey listed country. So, as we all know, that Pakistan status is being reviewed right now by FATF, and the chances are there is a very strong chance that the Pakistan may slip further down into a blacklist. Now, if they are blacklisted, that means all the funding to that country will stop, whether it is World Bank, IMF, or any other country which is trying to loan to Pakistan, will be told categorically by United Nations that if you are lending or giving funds to this country, it is at your own risk, because that fund will never come back. And that is the meaning of blacklisting of Pakistan. So right now they are in grey and their status is being reviewed. So it is in the interest of India to make sure Pakistan goes into blacklist, because obviously it's an enemy nation for India. However, the United States playing a major role in deciding. In fact, there is China, which will ensure that Pakistan comes out from does not go into blacklist at least, or even comes out from the grey list. But it's not going to happen. Pakistan will not come out of the grey list because they are, there is a huge blame on them for funding the terrorist activities. So what has to be done? The Donald Trump would like to face the election and obviously would like to win, and he will like to win on a nationalistic wave, and so he is doing a couple of activities with regard to his politics, which is prevailing in United States. The second most important activity that Donald Trump has to do is to withdraw his troops, his army, from Afghanistan, which is on the verge of, there is a lot of outcry in the public, and they don't want their soldiers to be stationed in Afghanistan in such a far off place for no reason. So Donald Trump has promised that he will withdraw, and he will withdraw in a very systematic manner. So what has happened in last 1 week? So let me take a step back. Pakistan has jailed Hafiz Saeed, which until few months back, or in fact few weeks back, they were not willing to pin any blame on Hafiz Saeed for getting involved in terrorist activities. But this week, it is a surprising move by Pakistan. Hafiz Saeed has been convicted for terrorist activities, for carrying out terrorist attacks, and he has been jailed for 5 years. And Donald Trump is visiting India. So the chances are there will be a lot of strategic and bilateral agreements that's going to be signed between India and United States. There could be open items which may need closures between these two countries. At the same time, as far as Donald Trump's election is concerned,
the elections require a lot of nationalistic wave to be generated, and the critical action is to withdraw from Afghanistan. There, Pakistan is playing a major role. So, let's discuss a little bit about Pakistan. Pakistan, if it slips into a blacklist, then the Prime Minister of Pakistan has initiated a lot of economic reforms to bring the economy back to to a reasonable level. So if they get into blacklist, then the funding from other countries or even loans or any advances which are possible will not happen. So it will further slip the country down into doldrums. It is not in interest of United States, especially this year, because they are facing withdrawal from Afghanistan. So what has happened? The China is already in favor of Pakistan. China will ensure that Pakistan will come out of the grey list. However, the US will still like to play a role of good cop and bad cop. That's the terminology which is used. So they will soften their stand on Pakistan and ensure that they do not fall into blacklist, but they remain in grey list. So that way, they will Pakistan as a country will keep getting small amount from IMF, some loans from some other country, and so on. So they will have some cushion, and in return, Pakistan will take some action, which they have already started by uh, convicting Hafiz Saeed, and also he is now jailed for 5 years. So it is basically being shown as one of the positive action that Pakistan government is taking, and I am sure there will be more news about this such actions where they would like to show physically to the world that they are actually taking action on the terrorist activity that country or non-state actors, as they say, are taking. In return, Pakistan will assist United States to peacefully withdraw their troops, and then major role will be played by Pakistan on reshaping the future course of Afghanistan. So there is this flip-flop which is going to happen, and this is much before the Donald Trump's trip later in the February to India, and so that things are in shape. While Donald Trump signs strategic deals with India, they will also ensure that they soften their stand on Pakistan, and they ensure Pakistan does not go into blacklist but remain in grey list. So this is something which I wanted to give my analysis today. Uh, Please leave your comments. In case you want to discuss anything with me, I will surely respond to as many people as I could. And I will see you tomorrow as usual. Bye bye.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant, and you are on Akulmach Live. The COP26 is going on right now with the global leadership present in full numbers at Glasgow. And they're talking about the environmental debit, environmental credit, and environmental justice. To understand this, I will be joined by a very senior, eminent personality, Mr. Naval Gund, who is joining us from UK. Let's welcome him. Good morning, Neville. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. COP26. Yes, here we are. The 26th Conference of Parties after the one in 1995 in Paris. And what's happened since? Global warming, I think. Climate crisis. As Boris Johnson opened the Glasgow event, because the UK are hosting COP26 this year, and he said it's 1 minute to midnight. Wow. that 60 seconds is going to tick off really quite quickly, isn't it, if we're not careful? So what do you think, CK? We've heard a lot of chat around this discussion. We had the G20 meeting at the weekend, and noises came out of there. But we need to get away from noises. Do you think we're moving away from noises into action with this particular conference of parties?
Well, I think Boris Johnson rightly said 60 seconds because that is exactly what it is on a global scale, on a universal scale. It is going to take only 60 seconds to end the humanity and the planet. So I think my view on this is that there has to be consciousness provided by the leadership to the everyone on this earth. So you see one side, animals are being killed. The other side, Taliban is actually creating havoc. And here are the top leaders who are discussing about who owns how much. So it really boils down to the effect of environmental credit, environmental debit, and the collective term is environmental justice. So this is exactly what everybody is talking about. And I don't think it is going to have any impact on environment because I think it is in our own hand. Don't you think so, Neville?
Yeah, I think you're right, CK. I mean, I'm often asked about this subject, and I say it's not a problem for the planet; it's a problem for humanity. The planet will exist. I mean, look at Mars; it's inhabitable currently. So planets exist. They migrate. They mutate. During COVID, the planet existed, and it grew. More greenery was out there than ever before. So this isn't an issue for the planet. So we need to really focus on what this issue is. This is human extinction. There was a great little advert that I saw from the UN, of all places, that had a mock conference, and the video showed Frankie the dinosaur, coming in and actually telling people that, we made ourselves extinct, but it wasn't our fault. There was a catastrophic action out there. The Ice Age came and it wiped us out. You're creating your own Ice Age. And it's true. Do we have to listen to a dinosaur? Do we have to come up with these comical or pretty abrupt ways of getting people on board to get people to act? I don't know. I mean, in some respects, these are shock tactics, and a lot of the problem with shock tactics is people say, "Oh, give me the old story. You're not real." And for every scientist in the past that was talking about the climate crisis, there was another scientist saying it's not a climate crisis. But the interesting thing is, I think those days are over. I think we've seen the end of the dissenters out there in the scientific world. The scientific world saying there's overwhelming evidence now, we're doing something wrong. And if we don't hit this 1.5 degree post-industrialization target, and if we go over it, we're on a slippery slope. What sort of slippery slope? Well, some people are going to have very hot temperatures and other places are going to have very cold temperatures and other places will be flooded. We're being inundated on the British TV, particularly the BBC, showing the effects of erosion in our country, in essence. So it's sea erosion against the even lighthouses that were put on, fairly safe ground. And now, literally, if you look outside the lighthouse, you look straight down. There is no land there anymore. It's disappeared. It's slipped into the ocean. It's disappearing. And this is the effect of rising tides. So it is a phenomenon. We know it's real. So don't stick your head in the sand and say it's someone else's problem, because this is our problem. And I'm interested by the title of this COP26. Everyone refers to it as COP26. But it's the words of COP that really, to me, hit the nail on the head. This is a conference of the parties. And the parties just happen to be governments, but actually the parties is every single man and woman on the earth. 7.4 billion people. If we can get all of those 7.4 billion people working in unison, then we have a chance to save humanity. And it's 1 minute to midnight. I quite agree with Boris. He's a bit of a, a high and low type person. He tends to, anyone that has seen some of his speeches, they are a little bit of gusto and, high expectations and can-do attitude and all this sort of stuff, which in some respects I love. It's sort of, it galvanizes people. But this speech was slightly different, I think, from him. I think 1 minute to midnight reminds me of Einstein, who was asked if you had an hour to save the world, what would you do? And his answer was quite simple. I'd spend 55 minutes finding out what the problem is. Well, we've had 59 minutes, according to Boris's speech, and we're in the last minute. In the whole realm of things, that's a huge amount of time, but it's not enough time. So we now need to start to see far more decisive action. And you know me, CK, it's not about knowledge anymore. It's not about learning lots of stuff. It's about putting something into action. And if we can do that collectively, we've got a good chance of making it a success. And it's as simple as that.
Well, Neville, I fully agree with you and all the sane voices which are now coming from across the world. But let me give you a little perspective and a little analysis of what is going on here. See, the analysis, as far as I'm concerned, and it's all scientific analysis. See, if the temperature goes up, what happens? The ice melts. When ice melts, what happens? There will be more water in the ocean. When there is more water in the ocean, the coastal cities are at risk. So as far as the planet is concerned, the migration which started 50,000 years back will happen and the cities will come inland. So this is all is a progression. And this is not for the first time this is happening. This has happened on the south coast of UK as far as 100 years back, where the towns have totally vanished under the ocean. In India, there are the entire civilization under the ocean. There is a whole lot of research going on in the Arabian Sea, where we keep finding ruins of human settlement on a continent-sized land masses, which is now submerged. So this is a process which is an ongoing process. And this will result in more rains. So that means this is exactly what is happening nowadays. There is more rain, more floods, and it's asking humans to change their cities to the areas where there are no water, not too much of rain. So if you look at India, because I'm an Indian, all the cities will have to move northwards by certain hundreds of kilometers in the time to come, and things like that. More rain will then bring more clouds. More cloud will then bring more, cold weather, ice age, etc. And the cycle will repeat itself. So I think this is where it is going. And there is so much of noise in the world, because most of the major cities like take Mumbai, Calcutta, New York, London, Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, all of them, Tokyo, all of them are on the seashores. All these big cities are at the seashore. And this is why they are saying, hey, my normal way of life will change. But the fact of the matter is, it has been changing all these whiles for last 5,000 years, even before that. So the only way we can live in harmony with the nature, and if you don't want nature to punish us, is to make sure that we live in harmonious environments, create a balanced lifestyle. And this is exactly what is going on here. When people talk about debits and credits, It's basically the lifestyle related issue, which it will boil down to, because the biggest polluters in the world are United States, China, and India. So if you look at the pollution, it's because of the sheer numbers of people, you know. So if you say that, hey, you are the biggest polluter, as a, when you say cop, and if you say no, cop is fine, but you know this guy is the biggest polluter, then obviously there will be a defensive argument from the other side, and that is why this debit and credit and environmental justice is being discussed. So I believe that, you know, until unless we think as human beings, none of these policy makers will be able to do anything, because they will always keep fighting about how much you owe me and how much I owe you and what is the justice. This is what I feel. Sorry for long narration, but this is my viewpoint, Neval.
You're absolutely right, CK. You hit the nail on the head, and that's why it's a conference of parties. You've heard me speak many times on collaboration, working together, teamwork, and now's the time for that to happen. It's almost this is probably the wrong phraseology, but it is like playing a game in many respects. The game is sea waters are rising, but that doesn't mean that it's just those coastal areas that have the problem. We all have the problem. Every single country has the problem, whether you're landlocked or whether you're sea facing. We've all got the problem. And in the past, I think there's been too much of a, well, that's not my problem. That's yours. It's got a long way to come before it's a problem for me. And this is the non-negotiable piece. This is where the likes of David Attenborough, who again had a speech at the opening session, and Gutierrez from the UN. I mean, he stood up there and said, "We are digging our own grave." Well, we need to take the shovel, the spade, the digger away from the people that are digging this grave, and we need to start, you know, not digging graves. It needs to be more action. And Greta Thunberg, you know, love her or hate her, she's outside the conference saying blah, 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 which we all understand as lots of talk, no action. And we've seen it in our own lives. But I think this is different. It's now, this is a 2-week conference. A lot of people don't realize this is not just a meeting of minds for a day or two, where these big leaders get together, as they've been in Rome recently, in Italy. This is 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks of discussion and negotiation. And prior to coming into this, we now have a formula. This 1.5% increase in pre-industrial temperatures is generally agreed by everybody. But now we've got a formula whereby everyone now can say how they're contributing to this net zero arena. And at the moment, all of those contributions means that we're going to hit 2.7 degrees. Now, that's only 1.2 degrees higher. However, it's 1.2, it's almost 100% higher than the agreed target. And who knows whether the agreed target was set too high anyway, because we really do not know. And that's the unfortunate part. You know, it's a bit like kids playing with a balloon. You know, you push the balloon in one direction and all of a sudden it goes in another direction. And that's unfortunately what's happened with climate change over the last 20 odd years, ever since we've been talking about it. But we really are in last chance saloon, I think. This is the time where this conference of the parties means you and me. We need to take action individually. And I don't want to sidle out, you know, India specifically, because India were one of the first up on the lectern yesterday. And Prime Minister Modi said, we will be carbon neutral, net zero by 2070. Well, I'm afraid everyone said it needed to be 2050. That's 20 years too late for, in essence, the second biggest country in the world. And you're right, India is a big polluter. But the UK was a big polluter in the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution started in the UK. You know, we discovered the coal mines. We built mills. We built the whole economy on a dream that we didn't know actually how it was influencing the planet. And unfortunately, today we know a lot more. So we shouldn't be blaming the big polluters of today, because they're only doing what everyone else has done with the resources that we currently have. But my point here is we need to be smarter than we were many years ago. We've got more data. We've got more information. We now know what effects of a coal-fired plant in one part of the world has on the global economy. We never knew that before. So now with all this data, with all this information, we need to use it wisely and we need to be smart. And equally, and I've heard a little bit of this, let's say the higher GDP, gross domestic product countries, need to be sponsoring, financing, supporting, call it what you like, all of those that struggle in this arena. And we know where we are. We know where the developing countries are. And we know where the developed countries are. And we now need to be working together in unison. So deforestation, it looks like we're now on a better path. Those countries like Brazil, that literally, you know, we need to understand why deforestation was important to Brazil. Well, they needed to increase their gross domestic product, so people had a better life. So what we need to be doing is looking at, well, don't cut down trees. We'll pay you not to cut down trees. And I'm talking about we, as in the global we, 7.4 billion people effectively are contributing to Brazil not cutting down trees. In fact, they're contributing to Brazil planting trees. And that's just one simple example. And if we can agree on those, it's going to be an equation of sorts. What are you going to give me if I stop doing this? And whether we like it or not, that's the negotiations that are currently happening. But it's going to be the rich countries, actually, the likes of the UK in particular, that will start to, have this as a burden. But it shouldn't be as a burden. It should be in an investment in our society. It's a real tough one, be honest, because when all these leaders go back to their own countries, there's this, 50,000 feet high wall placed around their country, because that's what they're concerned with. They're concerned with the economic and the social impact on their country. And we've just got to, this is one planet, India was neither fortunate or unfortunate in having India placed where it currently is. But if we don't do something about it, India won't be India in 40 years' time, as you said. We will have a migration of people and they will be moving away from their hometowns. Is that a good thing? I don't think it is, by what you hear about all these social economists that are talking. But we've got to work together. It's not a tough word. Togetherness, being kind to one another, that's where we need to go back to our roots. But I'm going to be interested to see in the next, let's say, 3 years, where all these statistics that are currently being gathered, where they're going to go. What's the trajectory? because at the moment the trajectory is not in a good direction. What do you think of that?
Well, Neville, I stay in a place which is fairly stable. It's like a plateau. It's a very stable landmass in this area. To be very surprised, I went for a morning walk a couple of days back when it was raining, and I suddenly saw a sinkhole. Fortunately, there was a guard who was actually putting the barricades so that no vehicle can get in there. So even in a stable area, which is a plateau, there is no river nearby. It's a plateau. It's a dry, very close to the desert. We are having this situation where suddenly the ground starts to melt right under our feet, and we don't know where it's going to happen. It could happen in our houses also, because we think that our house is stable, but then suddenly the ground start to move. So I think it's not only the oceans, as you rightly pointed out. I think more rain will bring all this kind of muddy situations underground, which we have no clue. We can't even see things. So I think it's going to bring a lot of changes. Cities will have to be rebuilt. People will have to migrate northwards. I don't know how people will react in the UK, because there is no north. But at least in India, we have a north here, so we can migrate. But there are certain countries where there will be no north at all, or south in the southern hemisphere. So I think this is a very interesting topic. And I personally believe that we need to work together, as you rightly said. This meeting has just started, is going to continue for 2 weeks. I think we will revisit this as and when situations are announced in the media. We will come over in this platform and discuss, Neville. So thank you so much for joining us on this important subject. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure speaking with you, CK. And yes, we will see what unfolds. And the interesting thing is, more and more information will come out of this conference, and there'll be a lot of people putting that information together. And let's face it, at the end of this conference, there will be pledges. I mean, that's what this will be. But let's hope that these pledges are based in reality. What organizations, what countries, what you and me are going to do about it. And if those pledges turn into reality, then you never know. Who knows where we'll be in 5 years?
Fine, Neville. We will revisit this. Bye-bye for today. Hello friends, this is Chandrakant and welcome to Akulmach. And today I'm privileged to have a very distinguished guest from UK, Mr. Neville Gunn, who is going to tell us about his program called MindFit, which we have launched in India last week.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. A bright, sunny-ish Friday. The sun's up there somewhere, but it's a bit cloudy. It's hidden behind the clouds. Today, I thought we would talk about a very simple subject that is very dear to your heart, my heart, and dear to any manager's heart who's got a few people working with them, and that's the subject of teamwork. So, CK, you are my guinea pig, or radish, whichever way you want to call it, for the day. Teamwork, what do you understand about teamwork? What makes a team work?
Well, the team has to work towards one goal, which is a team goal, and all members of the team must achieve that goal, the collective goal. And to achieve that collective goal, they have to have individual goals defined, and they must, for the sake of success of the team, they must achieve their individual goals.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about literally working together on a common goal. And in business, that's easy to do. So we set the common goal and teamwork happens, doesn't it?
Ideally, it should. It must work like that. Yes, why not?
It should and it must, yes. But the problem is, how many times does it happen? And the likelihood is not very many times, because several reasons. Let me ask you another very simple question. Because all of these skills that we're talking about, we must have learnt them somewhere. So we've spoken about communication. Well, we must have learnt that at school, how to communicate better, how to work under pressure. Again, we must have learned that over school. We had 14, 15 years at school, maybe 2, 3, 4 years at university. So we must have been able to work under pressure. Teamwork. We must have done that at school as well. So did you ever sit a team exam at school?
No, never. There was never a team exam, but there were some workshops which will inculcate the team, sort of team building workshops.
I mean, you were lucky you had workshops, which is great, okay? But you never sat a team exam. Don't you find that when teamwork is so important in business life, even in family life, actually, because we need to work as a team at home, and going out with your mates, you need to work as a team, but we don't actually work as a team and have a team exam. I actually find that quite fascinating, actually. Maybe people listening will think he's off his rocker. He's talking nonsense here. But the point is, teamwork is so important, because without it, all you end up is getting people in the office, at work, on the shop floor, who are just doing as they're told. There's no interest, there's no engagement, they're just going through the motions. That isn't teamwork to me. That's a dictatorship. And we all know what happens to dictatorships. People bully other people. That isn't teamwork either. So let's look at the components of teamwork. What makes a good team? So we're going to go back and forward here. What word comes to mind making a good team? What do you need to have to be a good team player?
It's a very difficult question, Neville. I think one of the key attribute is a good listener, maybe.
Good listener, absolutely. I'm so pleased you didn't say a good communicator, because I would have then said, okay, give me an example of communication. Listening is a great example of communication. We need to listen. But of course, we need to listen, not to respond, but we need to listen to think, because that's the whole point of listening, isn't it? Not to just give people an immediate answer, but to think about what the person's saying. So all of your team players that are coming up with perhaps new ideas, and you think immediately that's not a new idea. We tried that before they even joined the company, It didn't work then, it's not going to work now. And immediately you turn around, we tried that, didn't work. You're not listening. This is a new person in the organization coming up with an idea that they've thought about. So another word we should be doing? Not just listening, what else?
Positive attitude.
Positive attitude. Yeah, again, that's a bit of a construct. So we'll drill down into that one. But having a positive attitude basically says maybe encouraging that person to say more. So you've listened to what they've said, and you've shut down that little demon inside of you, that can't do, won't do voice that says, I'm going to just tell this person exactly what we've done before, You encourage the person to explain a bit more. 2 E's, encourage and explain. Okay? That's what we do when we're listening. We encourage people to explain how they feel. What's more? What else about teamwork? Now you're thinking. What other words come to mind when we talk about good teamwork?
I think have trust on your team. I think that is one of the critical aspects.
Yeah, trust. Huge word. The nice thing about trust, it begins with T, and teamwork begins with T as well. So teamwork and trust are actually interconnected. So if you know that you can trust your team, you know your back's covered, they're always going to be with you. That only, for many people, comes with time. But as we've spoken on many occasions before, you can trust someone 100% implicitly and explicitly right at the very beginning, and they will prove whether that trust is merited. They will prove whether they can earn that 100% badge of trust, or it starts to reduce. Another word I'll say, because we need to keep this simple for everybody, because the complexity comes with time. Another T word connected with teamwork is being together. So it's together, you know, another T word, which is easy. So all you've got to do is teamwork, trust, and together. And if you just start to do those things very simply, you will start to build the team and good teamwork. You'll be listening, you'll be communicating properly, you'll be thinking, you'll be exploring, you'll be engaging, you'll be encouraging, you'll be empowering, you'll be allowing each of the team members to lead the conversation. And all of these wonderful words that are all in the dictionary that we talk about being a good team player and good leadership, all of a sudden start to make sense to you where you are. So I'm not saying this is easy. It may be quite difficult to do. However, it's simple. It's a very simple thought process. You've now got to adapt it and adopt it into the way you work. And teamwork, as I say, is teamwork. Someone says teamwork makes the dream work.
So, Neville, I think this is amazing insight in very short time you've given. And, the MindFit program covers some of these attributes which people who are attending MindFit can actually improve their teamwork, other abilities to be a better human being. So tell us a little bit about how people will increase their quotient to work as a team if they attend MindFit.
Well, MindFit is all about action. So there's two parts of action. The first part of action is knowing how you do it currently. So there's a lot of reflection and there's a lot of inward looking. You might call it looking in the mirror. What do I do now? So everyone works in a team. You cannot avoid working in a team. Even if you haven't got a job, you're at home and that's your team. Whether it's your flatmates, they're your team. Whether it's your family, they're your team. So it's actually building that relationship around the team. Who am I? What do I do? Where do I fit? What's my responsibility? And all of these things you need to understand now. And then we can then set the actions where you can go and improve yourself. And a very simple action is literally, go and find out how other teams work. And you can Google it. I mean, this is not difficult to do. You can Google anything these days and just look at good teamwork and bad teamwork, and you'll find it. The papers will be littered with it. The press will be littered with it. Websites will be littered with it. But the thing is, it's an action. You need to take an action to go and find out what you now want to be. What is a good example of teamwork? And that's what we show you. We show you good examples of teamwork. We break down what those examples really mean. We don't just say, this is a good example of teamwork, and that's it. We actually explain why. Because if you've got the why, you can then see how they do it, and more importantly, what they do. So it's pretty simple, again, simple to understand, not necessarily easy to do. Because what it means is you've got to change what you do currently.
So I think you've explained it beautifully, Neville. your program will make people a better team player. And viewers who are listening to this video, they must come and explore further. Please reach out to us and enroll in the Indian edition of MindFit program. So, Neville, thank you very much for finding time and speaking with us. We will find another subject next week and come back to you with something more interesting.
Always a pleasure, CK. Enjoy yourself, everybody. Go and have fun. Become a team player.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant, and I welcome you on this very bright Monday morning in the Doctor Speak. And our guest doctor today is Dr. Pooja Bedi. So let me welcome Dr. Pooja without further ado.
Good afternoon, CK. Thank you so much.
Yes, doctor. I think today we would like to discuss about something related to the mental health, and there is a lot of confusion about the bipolar syndrome, and people don't seems to understand what is bipolar, what triggers it, and what are the symptoms, in fact, to identify those symptoms. So I think it is a good subject for us to discuss. So the first question would be from my side is, what is a bipolar? I think if you can explain this in very simple layman term for our viewers to understand, it will be great.
Yes, definitely. CK, as the term indicates that bi is two and the polar means poles. So this disorder basically is associated with the two different apart poles of mood swings, where suddenly a person is having a very hyperactivity mentally, physically, which can actually lead to very relentless decisions. And then there is a phase when this person comes down. So in a very, very low, or we say hypomaniac manner, and the intensity becomes very low in terms of energy, in terms of talking, in terms of having meals, don't want to talk to someone. So bipolar disorder is basically a disorder which is associated with the mood swings. So the mood swing basically are of two types. Either the person becomes very, very hyper or becomes very, very hypo. And the reason for the same is very difficult to come out with. So the major reason we come across is it can run in the families. We have seen it if somebody has a bipolar, which is very, very remarked, or you can say remarkably seen in the particular generation, is definitely getting inherited in the other generation. So that is one of the factor. But besides this, if we say the social factors are there, you can say the some sort of chemical incoordination in the brain can also lead to bipolar disorder. And unfortunately, it starts at a younger age, and as a parent or as a, you can say, healthcare professionals, we are not able to diagnose them right bang on time. So if we are able to do it, if the parents are more aware, if the society is more aware why the child is undergoing sudden ups and downs, mood swings are there, hormones play definitely one you know factor into it. But the sudden and uh, sudden low and sudden high in children, if it can be diagnosed at a very early age, it can be catered very nicely later on in the same cases. So I highly recommend that the pre-existing factors like ADHD, where the kids are very hyperactive, suddenly they start shouting, and they behave very normal after a while, and then suddenly they become very low. So this kind of mood upsets, if the frequency is very high, going to a psychologist or to a psychiatrist or maybe to a health professional or maybe having a group therapy can really help a lot. So bipolar disorder is a very chronic illness marked by severe mood swings, it can affect both the genders, women and men, but women are more vulnerable because of many reasons. They get into the maniac mode for the longer durations, which make them more vulnerable for the episodes in the future. So it is actually a thing which is not catered very nicely in the society. So we need to be more aware about it.
So, doctor, tell us, is this a disorder related to the age, or is it can happen to anyone at any time? Uh, what is the beginning, the first sign of having the bipolar syndrome?
Right. So the first thing is the age. Let's discuss about the age. It usually happens little later in the age. The early childhood, the indicators definitely they start popping up. Like I mentioned, ADHD. It can actually, if left untreated or uncatered, can lead to a little severity. I'm not saying bipolar only, but maybe in any other form it can come up. But yes, many of the ADHD cases, sooner or later, you can say in the adulthood it starts affecting the person. So not at an early age bipolar starts affecting. And second is uh, the age was the one thing that we were discussing, and second, I'm so sorry.
The second
Second
was,
part of the question
can
was
it happen to a particular type of people, or it can happen to anyone?
it can happen to anyone, but yes, people who are already having it, and they can definitely give it to their coming generation. So genetic effect is there. But otherwise, there as such, there's no particular age group you can say which gets affected, or it is not a gender biased thing. It can affect anyone. But yes, the like alcohol abuse cases, or you can say substance abuse cases that are there, they are more vulnerable towards the bipolar or the mental health other issues that are there. So they are more vulnerable towards it.
The reason I asked this question is primarily because I wanted to bring clarity that this is not related to genes. It could affect anyone having difficult situation or highs and lows, as you mentioned. So I think that is one point that is clear now. We have also seen that this affects very popular people. Maybe we don't hear about them, normal people, but we usually hear about the very successful people who are always in limelight and attracting media attraction. So does bipolar is a byproduct of becoming popular too soon, too early, or it could be non-related to your fame at all? It can happen to anyone, whether you are a successful person or you are a normal person. It could still affect you. What are the reasons behind it?
If we are talking specifically to the people who are very, very successful and there's an instant success is there, somehow I will say that the first reason in them is the drug or the alcohol abuse. So this is called as dual diagnosis. When the people who actually go very, very high and at a very high pace, they tend to suffer some kind of anxiety, which they are very easily able to cater for it by themselves. So the or maybe some other kind of thing. So which is a pre-existing factor in them, along with I would say alcohol or drug abuse can definitely take a person towards a bipolar syndrome. And the sad part is if it is left untreated, if it is left maltreated, or is misdiagnosed, and if the societal or the family support is not there, it can end up in a societal cases as well. So in a very, very extreme cases, yes, it can definitely lead to societal tendencies in the people. And to an extent, when people are very successful, they tend to get into bad habits. So I would say the plus of the bad habits and the pre-existing factors can definitely lead to it. But if we are talking just that the person is going high and suddenly sees a low, so the mood changes are there. So again, the factor is not that they are suddenly successful or instant success and the money flows in. No, that is not the reason. But yes, if the sudden low is there, if they are not able to stabilize their mood, they are not able to control their emotions, they are not able to control that disturbance that is coming for the transient phase, it can definitely lead to some or the other mental disorder, or maybe later on bipolar as well, because we see many cases ending up, unfortunately, with the life, you can say, attempt to suicide or suicide. So yes, it actually affects.
So, Dr. Pooja, I will talk like a normal layman. As a layman, I understand there are three scenarios. One is at time of dire strait. Many times we feel superhuman. We feel that there is an adrenaline rush, and we start doing things like a superhuman. And at times, as you mentioned, there could be a suicidal tendency. So there is one scenario where you take very difficult task and you probably finish it or perish doing that. Second is that for no reason you want to just have a suicidal tendency. And third is a bipolar. What is the difference between these three? And my second part of the question is suicidal tendency is necessarily part of a bipolar, or a trigger from bipolar causes the suicidal tendency? I mean, if you can just explain this in more detail, so it will help our viewers to understand where they stand.
Yes. So, coming to the first part of the question, where you say that adrenaline rush can lead to such kind of mood swings, definitely it leads to some kind of mood swings. But look at the sports people or people like us. We are able to cater for those emotional disturbances very easily. We have to get into that ritual of getting back to the daily chores or the target that is there. So failures are part of life for everyone. So the sooner or later they accept, so the better is their mental health. So coming to the again to the first question, adrenaline rush, the moment we are able to cater for the ups and downs in life or in success or in terms of money, many people are able to do it. This is why the human race is surviving. So it has nothing to do with the bipolar till the time. Say sports person, otherwise the moment they retire, so the adrenaline rush definitely goes down. So it never happens that in majority of the cases they stay very normal, or people like us as well. So sudden fame, sudden money, the till the time individual is able to control his ups and downs, he is not going to have very threatening kind of mental health issues or bipolar for sure. But coming to suicidal tendencies that people have, yes, bipolar has got a role. So there's the second part of question. So suicidal tendencies, it happens when the person is in extreme low, you can say. So we are very much aware that the anxiety, depression, societal pressures, familial pressures, career, money can all lead to these kind of tendencies. Or you can say, unfortunately, they mature as well into some kind of suicide, losing the life. But if you go towards the higher side of it, why the successful people, why the people are who are having money, so there's some kind of mental disturbance in the form of comorbidity, you say, or the pre-existing factor, you say, is already there, which is a very false notion in itself, because the bipolar, you can say, is running in the back, and it is performing itself in a hypermaniac form. And in the hypermaniac form, when people are relentlessly deciding certain decisions, they can actually go for suicidal acts as well. So in both the cases, the suicide can happen because of the emotional low or emotional high as well. So we need to crack a balance. Somebody who is having these kind of tendencies, they definitely need a psychotherapy. It can be catered. Medications are also there. Counseling sessions are there. So the psychosocial therapies are there, which can actually help them out. And the third part of the question, that the bipolar is not that it always ends up in the suicide. But as I mentioned, that if it is associated with any kind of substance abuse, or you can say alcohol abuse, so if these factors are there, or drug abuse, you can say, people are taking drugs a lot these days, youngsters are taking a lot. So there's sudden mood changes that are there. In those mood changes, yes, they can definitely go for suicidal tendencies, but it's not that it is bipolar is highly marked with the suicidal tendency. But yes, if left untreated, as I mentioned, if left misdiagnosed, it can definitely lead to suicidal tendency. Because when they are in a very high mood, they are not able to decide certain things or make certain decisions in a very rational manner. So they somehow end up in these kind of unfortunate things.
I think the most important question is how do you identify? I think if somebody is having a bipolar syndrome, first of all, he will also not understand that he is actually bipolar, and the people around him also will not know. This guy is sometimes very angry on small things, and sometimes he's not at all attentive on things. So these are very normal things, which happens every day, maybe 5 times a day. How do you distinguish between a normal behavior and a bipolar behavior?
CCK, when it comes in the childhood phase, which I really insist, and majority of my talks and articles are on the childhood stage. So at that particular stage, since the bipolar does not manifest that early, but it exists in a very different and a pre-existing form like ADHD, which is pre-marked in children. You will see certain group of children who are very silent, they're okay, they fight with their fellow friends, but then again next day they are there. But again you will be able to witness one odd child in the entire group or crowd, you say, who shrieks, who shouts, and then suddenly mellows down. Suddenly he will start or she will start beating the younger ones, and suddenly you will say there's a change is there. After a week they are having friendship with them again. So this is very normal. If somebody is listening, this is very normal. It happens with my kids, somebody will say. But if the frequency of these episodes is very, very high or is very repetitive, then definitely we have to conclude or diagnose that particular childhood mental health issues are there with the child. So it's very important that we as a parent or society try to identify these kind of things in children. They suddenly start talking to you, and then you will see there's abrupt change, then they don't want to talk to you, they are sitting in one corner. Probably they were very fond of reading or playing a certain sport, and sudden changes there where they don't want to go out and play sports. So these are the indicators in children. When it comes to the adult, so specifically talking about the women, since they are more vulnerable for certain reasons, you'll see there are drastic changes in the moods. You see a female suddenly shouting, she is having a discussion, a very normal discussion with the family or with friends. Suddenly she'll just pop up in anger. Or you will say that after a while she mellows down as well. And then she becomes very normal, as though nothing has happened. So again, the thing is very normal. It happens sometime. But if the episodes are in frequency and repetitive mode, it needs to be catered. So if somebody is sitting alone, not talking to someone who was very extrovert, very jolly natured person, but suddenly you see their hobby has changed, they don't want to pursue their hobby anymore, or you say they have conflicting relations in their professional life, which was not there earlier, or they are crying very often. So it is a very marked indicator in the female. As far as men are concerned, they are more into the hyper side, to be very frank. So if we say one of the example, if some particular person is a very good driver, and this guy or this man tend to have frequency of accidents. So it is an indicator. I'm just citing one small example, uh, though it is not 100% related to this particular thing, but a small example. Somebody is a good driver, suddenly he is meeting up with or ending up with many accidents frequently. So it can show some kind of relentless decisions that this guy is taking. So in men, they are comparatively very less vulnerable compared to women, but both the genders are definitely affected with it. So the indicators are very clear. Suddenly, you see a person is very jovial. During their high time, they tend to eat less food because so much of energy is there, and they feel like they're very confident. They can do anything, and suddenly they make some very big targets for themselves. And then after a week, or maybe say after a couple of years, you'll notice the same person who has set a very high target for himself or herself is not able to, or not wanting even to look at the target that he or she has set for herself. So these are the very clear indicators that come. but we have to definitely do the provisional diagnosis that is it going towards anxiety disorder, depression disorder. But if it is a mood swing, then it is a definitely an indicator for bipolar.
Excellent, doctor. I think these are the things which everyone should watch out, especially when they are having kids around them, to look for such symptoms. And once these identified, um, how long the treatment can go, especially, for example, there is a kid who's showing these symptoms about 7, 8 years or 10 years. How long this will take to correct this bipolar syndrome?
Right. So coming to this particular thing, that treatment part and how long it takes, there are different types of bipolar actually. Bipolar 1, 2, cytothyroid, which is related to the thyroid actually. So uh, in kids, if we regularize them with their scheduling of the day, their time management, their habits, hygiene habits, if we motivate them to follow them on regular basis, they can come up out of it by themselves or with just a psychotherapy, or we say talk therapy. So in talk therapy also, majorly recommendations for the kids are to make them regularize or maybe little more disciplined, and be very very precautious about the kind of the diet they are taking. Diet has to be less in carbs, because diet has got some sort of effect on bipolar as well. So treatment in kids can last for just the, if you're talking about the psychotherapy, it can just be catered in a month time, maybe 6 months to 1 year time. But in elders, it varies definitely, and it depends on the type of bipolar disorder they are undergoing. For certain bipolar 1, it will take many years. But many bipolar cases, they only need treatment when they are in a very high phase, you know, when their phase is very, very high or when they melt down. So these are only the two phases for which the medication is recommended. But as far as psychotherapy is concerned, or the counsel with the psychiatrist is concerned, they definitely go ahead little bit. But with kids, it can be early diagnosed and can be beautifully treated just with the psychotherapy itself in a couple of months, and kids can come out of it.
Uh, Doctor, I think I would like to ask you the one question which is related to the medicine, and there are all sorts of treatment which are available. So some treatment can be harmful, will show some side effect, and then there are some treatment which does not show side effect. So are there treatment available like homeopathy, where the side effect may be less, it's less tedious to follow, people feel comfortable? Are there treatment available in for the bipolar in medicines like homeopathy, Ayurveda, etc.?
Yes, yes, definitely, CK. The medication is definitely available, but it has to be there with the very good psychotherapy as well, to be very frank, because that is a part, because the counseling is one part which can cater for the early symptoms, or maybe when the highs and lows are there, where we can train the person how to deal with it, how to deal when somebody is very very angry. So we teach them about the deep breathing exercises and many other mindfulness techniques that are available. So we teach them. But yes, along with them, there are alternative medicines which are available, which take some time because it is a chronic illness or disorder. So it takes some time to get off. But if the triggering factor is still there, nothing will work. If somebody has got drug or alcohol abuse, bipolar disorder, so I would say that they need first to be catered for their substance induced bipolar, and then the bipolar treatment be given. Yes, in homeopathy, Ayurveda, or alternative medicines, acupuncture also is very effective in bipolar. So yes, the treatment is definitely available.
Fantastic. It was lovely talking to you, Dr. Pooja, today. And this is a very important subject. I think, like any other mental disorder, we tend to overlook these symptoms and say, that, hey, this is part of our life, and probably He's just angry on certain things without analyzing. So I think thank you very much for giving us a lot of information on how to identify what symptoms to look at, and then how do you treat a bipolar syndrome. So with this, I'd like to say goodbye to you today, and thank you very much for finding time and coming on this show. We will catch up next week again on something more interesting for the people.
I appreciate for the opportunity, CK. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Bye bye, Dr. Pooja. Until next time.
Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies and welcome to Top Brass Spotlight. And let me also welcome my friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gant. Naval, how was the morning in London today?
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. It's a bit cold for the middle of summer, but hopefully by the weekend it'll be warming up. And we've got a bit of a warming up session going on here today because I don't think we could utilise what Chandra's going to be talking about today because it's a little chilly, but I'm sure it's going to be really well received in India.
Yes, Naval, in fact, I'm very happy and I'm very privileged to welcome our guest today on Spotlight, Mr. Satya Madala, the CEO of Single Point Solution. Satya, welcome to Top Brass Spotlight.
Thank you very much, CK. Good morning and good morning, everybody. So, yeah, I'm ready to take it. Thank you very much for welcoming me.
Yes, we look forward to this conversation, Neville. And Satya is going to talk about something very, very unique and something very remarkable. And so I don't want to spill the beans now. You can probably start the discussion with Satya.
Fantastic, CK. Thank you very much. Satya, good morning. And you've got something exciting to talk about today. I know you have. I've seen a picture. So for the benefit of everybody else, what are we going to be talking about today? What's so revolutionary that you're bringing us?
Yeah, good morning, Noel. Actually, just today I wanted to talk about e-scooters for a short fleet, wherein actually I'm coming up with a caption called, fun, have a fun on fuels. So ride on our fuels. So these are my captions for my vehicles. So Single Point Solutions is coming up with some sort of a small vehicles, for a short distance fleeting, and wherein actually, so it's just a Single Point is going to introduce to some of the public organizations to utilize these vehicles.
Fantastic. So what this is you call it an e-scooter? Is that an e-scooter?
It's a e-scooter, and we called it as a e-bikes, EV bikes. So wherein actually it runs on a electrical battery. So it's a small vehicle wherein actually public can carry, anybody can carry on their hands. Wherein when they wanted to utilize it, just it's a foldable scooter, wherein just they can put in their backpack and just go anywhere and utilize it. It's a small vehicle.
Fantastic. It sounds like it's a fold-up version, and I'm sure CK is going to be putting some pictures of what we're talking about in the live show. So this portable arena, it's coming to life so often now. So who are you really targeting for this type of product that you're putting on the market?
Yeah, so we are targeting actually, public can directly buy the vehicle from us, and at the same time, like we are planning to run a fleet in a gated communities as well as in some public places, wherein people can utilize this vehicle to go to their offices and to go to the small vegetable markets near to their community, and they can carry this vehicle into the malls also. Even they can carry this to malls and utilize it. So basically, we are targeting tourists at tourism places and gated community people. They can utilize it for a small feeding purpose, and for a small distance riding purpose. And even children, they can utilize it to go to their schools and come back and give it back to the community. So these vehicles can be utilized anywhere. You see, just I wanted to highlight a small example. Say for example, if any housewife, if they wanted to go to nearest vegetable market, so they are riding on their scooter, small scooties where it will run on fuel. So those housewives, they can utilize these vehicles, so to go and get the vegetables and hand it over at a the place where they took. So even actually, we are developing these vehicles can be organized by using mobile application also. They can book the vehicle on mobile application, and they can take the scooter on mobile application, and they can find out where the scooter is by using a mobile application. All this sort of technology we are integrating with these vehicles.
It sounds brilliant. I mean, I'm thinking immediately that rather than the housewives going to the local vegetable market, I can see young people here having far more freedom, and their parents giving them a lot of freedom, a lot of they build their confidence levels up by just going on these little short hops, which previously would have taken maybe 15 minutes to walk there and 15 minutes to walk back, whereas a short hop on one of these vehicles might take 4 or 5 minutes to get there. So, and give them more time to have a chat with their friends. And as we know, while they're on the road, because they will be on the road, and I'm thinking more about gated communities here, so very safe arenas for young people to go on. But I can see students, 16, 17-year-olds, volunteering perhaps to go down to the shops for mum rather than being told to go, because this is fun. This is a nice little fun tool. So not only can they help their parents out, but actually they're going to be having fun at the same time. So I can see a huge opportunity for young people here. And you mentioned that wonderful word of the 21st century. Goodness, if I say 20th, it's last century of the 21st century. That three little word that all of these youngsters get hold of, an app. I've got an app. So tell me a little bit about your app. What does it do? How is it beneficial to everybody?
You see, by using the app, actually, they can book. Actually, we are creating some sort of QR code and RFID technology to find out, to book the vehicle, and to even actually they can navigate, and they can see, the parent can see. Say, for example, if any children, they are taking our vehicle, they can see on how speed they are going on. It will be alerted. It can alert the parent and how speed the children is going on, and the fuel, the emission levels, and even it treats the climatic conditions also. And we are providing some sort of geo-fencing, and we are providing some sort of speed controlling, and everything we are providing by using mobile application. That means the vehicle can be controlled by using mobile application. And the thing is, if they are going beyond the area where they're supposed to be, so it will be alerted to the parent also. So this sort of technology we are integrating with the vehicle, as well as the mobile application, as well as anybody can track. Even actually, if there is any problem in a vehicle, actually it will be alerted the emergency number and all. So it's not only electrical vehicle with a combination of electrical and mechanical. It is just we are integrating some sort of sensors also to find out. So it is a totally advanced technology what we are using in the vehicle, and advanced motors we are using to climb the mountains and all. So wherein actually why I'm telling about the mountains, you see this state government tourism departments, so they are using some sort of small vehicles like jeeps to take the tourists to some places, so to climb the mountains and all. But instead actually the individuals can take this vehicle and climb the mountains and enjoy the trip. So instead actually going on a free four-wheel, just they can go on this electrical e-bike and they can have a fun. At the same time, see, some places actually they cannot park the four-wheeler. So that sort of places actually they can ride this bike and they can carry the bike on their hand and go to certain level. Actually, there is some limitations when you are using four-wheeler, but there is no limitations when you are using these vehicles, these e-bikes.
No, I can see it being of incredible use. I mean, just for people that are listening in here, I mean, I travel a lot, as a lot of people know. I was recently in Lisbon last year, and Lisbon is renowned for being very hilly. It's incredibly hilly. And they have an old tram system, which is absolutely fantastic. But of course, the trams get full of all the tourists. So when I found that they call them e-bikes over there, and they literally were just in the road. They just parked on the side of the road. I used an app and I said, where's the closest? I need 2 e-scooters. And it pointed me directly to them. And they were literally 50 yards away from the front of the hotel. And we booked it there and then. So that disabled it, apparently. So when I got there, I had a QR code from my phone that activated it. And I thought, wow, this is great. I've immobilized. I've got my own form of transport here. And I hired it for the day. And we had a tremendous amount of fun. It asked me if I wanted to limit the speed on the app, because my wife was a little apprehensive about it. But we both got on these scooters and off we went. And we literally went around the town and went up some very steep inclines. Because when you get to the top and you start looking down and you think, well, that didn't hurt. It didn't hurt me climbing that one, because you're on this lovely little e-scooter. They weren't fold away, unfortunately. They were a bit big and clumsy. But I love the fold away idea. I think that's a real added benefit, because what that means is, to me, is that you could purchase these now. I mean, this is previously, I could see this as a huge hire opportunity, and we did the same in Paris last year as well. But when you can fold these things away and stick them in the back of the car, I can imagine, rather than having these huge bikes, pedal bikes on the back of the vehicle with specially adapted prongs to put on your trunk, you now just drop these 2 or 3 in the back of the car, and all of a sudden the whole camping arena, makes it so that you can leave the car at the campsite or wherever you're going and just get on one of these scooters. I can see the versatility of all of this, and it's fantastic. You're out there in the forefront. But now, what we need to be telling people is, where do they go to get them? And how easy is it to charge them up? Can they charge them up from a plug in their own house, or what can they do?
So we are providing, for a public who are buying these vehicles, they can charge the vehicle in their house itself. Like, it requires, some sort of 260 volts plug. That's it. That's enough. And when we are fleeting it, actually, we are maintaining an office over there in a gated community. So wherein actually we are, providing some sort of employment. So where those guys they'll keep on charge the vehicle and they keep it for a ready to give a rent it out for a public. So it's very easy to charge, and at the same time it is very easy to maintain. Even if there is any problem in a motor kind of a thing, it's a simple motor can be replaced with a existing good motor. So those sort of things we are already taking care. And in future we are also coming up with some adapters wherein actually it gives the information about a battery also. So we are incorporating BMS inside the vehicle. So wherein actually if there is any problem in a battery or if there is any problem in charging the battery, all these things all the analytics will be captured on the dashboard, so they can see that. Even actually it is very easy to maintain. If anybody come forward and take the franchise from us, so it is very easy for them to maintain the vehicles. So
Fantastic. I mean, it's almost like a plug and play. I mean,
yes,
I'm getting more and more excited at every moment. I'm looking at my PC and thinking, well, it's just a bigger PC. I've got my battery charger on the right. I just plug it in every now and again. I've got 4 hours battery life. I know how long that battery lasts me. It's going to last me to the extent of the PC. But all the diagnostics are on the screen. It says your antivirus is up to date, and you've got 3 hours left on your battery life, or you've got 10 minutes left. I suggest you plug it in. So it's just going to be literally like working with a PC, but I'm going to be riding it everywhere. Is that fair to say? It's going to be as easy as that?
Of course, yes.
Oh, fantastic. So how long, I mean, when I get on this, what sort of journey can I go on? How far can I go, roughly? I mean, I know these battery lives are slightly different, but how far can we go?
You can go up to 20 kilometers with a full, charging battery, wherein you can go to 20 kilometers and come back. Actually, totally 40 kilometers you can ride. But just we are precautionarily telling you to go for 40 kilometers, but you can go beyond that. No issues at all. So, one full charge battery can go up to 80 kilometers. But,
Wow.
there is so many factors are considered. Say when you are inclining the mountains and all, so the battery will get drained very fast. So, in that cases, we are telling like just go up to 15 to 20 kilometers and come back.
That's fantastic. I mean, that really does sort of put it in perspective, because it literally is a short hop vehicle.
Yeah.
And one you can just drop in the back of your car, take it to work, nip out at lunchtime, etc., etc.
Yes.
So it sounds to me as it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
What about the cost of these to buy? Is that prohibitive, or is that quite reasonable too?
It's quite reasonable. Actually, the high-end vehicle will cost maximum at $500. Wherein actually, it comes up with a wide tires and all. So actually, so many variants are available with the same features. But when it comes to if you wanted to enjoy the ride, so you take wide tires, and if you wanted to go on a mountains, it will cost you like 500. It's a maximum price. And the minimum price will vary on a variant wise. So small variant vehicles will cost you some sort of $300. It starts from $300 and it goes up to $500.
So it's a very reasonable price, and it sounds like I've got all these, you know what these young boy racers are like. They like to put different tires on and different hubcaps, and they can change it into whatever color they like. Put their own personality on it. Even having dangly chains off the front. I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away with myself here, but it's a purely customized vehicle as well. So
exactly.
Just to wrap up, where do they go? Do they come directly to you? Do they go to a high street store? Do they come online? Where can they go to either hire these vehicles or come and buy them?
See, we are providing, website and mobile application to buy the vehicle, and just we are providing some sort of, e-counters at our gated communities to, to get them. So we are already started working with the gated community people and the tourism department, and wherever it is necessary. So even actually we are trying to talk to mall people also. So shopping mall people, we are trying to tie up with them. So we are trying to keep some e-counters to get the vehicles. So
That's really
shortly we are
good.
going to promote the vehicle.
So, in essence, I'm sure we can put a link to the website after this interview, so it can come directly to you. I think a few things that are just like immediately coming to my mind. This is a great advertising opportunity as well. Like anything else, if something's moving, it's far more penetrable into the brain than something that's static. So when something's moving, we see something moving along. So you could actually be advertising your company on these vehicles. So the opportunities for business people is endless. For individuals, I mean, I can't wait to get my hand on one. I wish I was in India now and I'd go and get one. Over here, unfortunately, it's a bit more difficult to get hold of these things, and you can only use them in London, for instance, if they're hired. So you can't actually purchase them. So if you're hiring it, then you're allowed to use it. If you have got one, then you can't use it, which is quite crazy to me, but that's what life is. So, Satya, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you again. Let's have some just final closing remarks. Why should people really be looking at this new green way of travel?
See, actually, when it comes to this question, actually there is so many advantages when you are using this vehicle. So I can say actually, you can encourage the governments to reduce the emissions, and at the same time, actually, people are finding a lot a problem finding the parking spaces at malls and other places wherein actually they can utilize these vehicles, to save that. And those are the main some sort of advantages to utilize these vehicles. So even nowadays, actually, state governments also coming up with some tracks to ride this kind of bicycles and these e-scooters. So that's what I want to tell about this.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, if we do believe in being green, protecting the planet from, COVID has, over the last 4 or 5 months, we've seen that emissions have considerably reduced, and birds are now singing, and plants are growing in places that they would never been singing and growing before. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity to do your bit, for the environment. And get onto this fast track, because it will be a fast track. We're getting people moving much further and much faster using these e-scooters. As ever, Satya, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I wish you a lot of good luck with this venture, and I'm sure people are going to have fun just messing around with the app, let alone anything else.
Thank you, Neville.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you about this e-vehicle, and e-scooters. So that's pleasure is mine. Pleasure is from a single point solutions. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you very much, CK.
In fact, Satya, to be very frank, in order to meet you, I'm just waiting for this lockdown to get lifted, and I'm waiting for this vehicle to drive, because I think your place is just 10 kilometers from my place. So I'm just waiting for this to happen.
It's not even 10 kilometers. It's a 6 kilometers.
There you go.
Walk from my place to your place.
You got no excuse. No excuse. It's a bit further for me, guys, but I'll be there. I will be there.
Certainly. I think to the viewers, finally, I would like to say that last month, Satya and his company launched the three-wheeler, which is electric three-wheeler, and this month Satya is launching the e-bike and the entire infrastructure around it, which is required to run the e-bike, including charge solution, analytics, setup, and even higher mechanism. So
Yes.
if entrepreneurs are interested in setting up so that when the lockdown is lifted, they are ready with the business model, I think this is the right time to invest, and they can talk to Satya Madala and his company and get the whole thing sorted out and implemented. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Satya, for coming to Spotlight, and we will catch up again very soon.
Thank you, CK. Thank you. See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach live and I'm Chandrakant, and we are back on the challenge. And a few days back I had posted this challenge to the viewers, which is finding the area of this triangle. And there were few parameters also defined along with this challenge, which is that the problem has entangled with some surrounding squares, and you are supposed to understand what is the distraction and what is the real thing and solve this. So the area of the triangle needs to be calculated. Some of you had attempted, but let me go back to our solution time and use the whiteboard to find the problem to this solution. Let's look at it once again. This is a bunch of squares and rectangles here, and the challenge was to find the area of this triangle. All right, so let's go to our board and we will try and solve this problem. So here is a problem, and let's say this is a square, as we can see, and as defined in the problems also. The side of this square is equal to the width of this rectangle. It's very clearly defined in the problem. So if this side, let's say if we call it A, then let me just write it down. If this is, oops, let me write it. If this is A, then this is also A, and therefore this is also A. However, the side of the smaller rectangle will be B. Let's say if it is B. So to find the area of this triangle, we have to use a simple area formula, which is the height into base by half. We have discussed this in our previous problems also. The area of the triangle is half of height into base. So we already know what is the base of this triangle, which is A. We need to find the height of this triangle, and height of this triangle will be A minus B, because the side A is equal to this side also of this square, and B minus A will give us the height. So what we need to do is A minus B into A will be divided by 2 will be the area of this triangle. So if we have to write it down, we can write it down like this. I will create some space here first and write the area. One by 2. Let me shift this thing so that you can see. A minus B into A. This will be the area of this triangle that I had given you as a challenge to find out. It's a very simple solution. We can further reduce it. We can multiply A and it will become A square minus AB divided by 2. So we can further simplify it and we can find the final equation. But I think this is simple enough. If we attach a value to it, say for example, if A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 1, then straight away A minus B is 1, and 1 into 2 is 2 divided by 2, the area will be 1. So it's as simple as that. So friends, did you like the solution of this particular challenge, which is challenge number 2? And also let me know what is the other way of finding. There is one more way of finding the area of this triangle, and I expect you to get engaged with me by sending me comments. And also if you have any other way to solve this challenge, I'll be very happy to receive your solution. So I look forward to getting your solution, and I will also meet you in the next challenge. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies, and today I would like to share a piece of advice, or you may even say it's a tip, which I will give it to you, especially when you are a startup CEO or you are a marketing head. So here is a tip which I want to share with everyone. The tip is that whenever we come across an idea, or we want to talk about or market our idea, we have to be authentic and we have to be original. So when we come across a lot of other people doing a lot of innovative things, we may get inspired by those people, their efforts, etc. But when we talk, we actually don't copy their ideas. We have to improvise and come out with something original and authentic. Why I'm saying this? Because this is very important, because if you are authentic, it will be very important for you to defend and not discard your own idea when you are questioned about your own solution or offerings. So it is very important to be authentic and be original to be successful in life. So with this tip, I will end this video, and hopefully this advice may be useful for you. And just drop a message if just in case if you want to have any further discussion with me in terms of any guidance or any further tips that you may need. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
What's up guys, this is Akulmach Live and my name is Chandrakant. I'm your host today, and today we have a very important topic to discuss, which is how do you impress using your communication on a social media. And to discuss this subject, I'll be joined by my friend from UK, a very famous personality, Mr. Neighborhood. So I will just step out for a moment and we'll be back along with my guest. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, friends. So today morning, let me welcome Naval to the show. Naval is also chairman of Mindfilm Limited and is also 29th ranked global influencer. So welcome to the show, Naval. How are you doing today morning?
Good morning, Akulmach. Communication is the subject of today, CK, so I thought we'd start communicating. You heard that quite well, didn't you?
It was very loud and very clear.
Very loud and very clear and very, very one way. I wasn't expecting anything while I was saying it, and yet it might have switched people off, but it could have switched people on because they would have recognized it as Good Morning Vietnam from Robbie Williams many, many years ago. And it was his signature tune. And that's the first message we've got today. Have you got a signature tune? Some people call it a jingle that people can relate to immediately when they see you or your product or something else. So, CK, does that make sense? Have you got a signature tune now?
Yes, absolutely. And Akulmach Live is our signature. You know, whenever we come on the show, we always say, welcome to Akulmach Live. And that is our identification, also our cue. Before we proceed further, this show is going live across 6 social media platforms, and people can communicate with you, can indulge in our show live using the chat function. So viewers, if you have any questions or any comment, observation, feel free to shoot it out and we will respond immediately. So Neville, I think the subject really today is many times you don't know the other person when you're communicating using social media on Facebook or LinkedIn, and then you use your English language. You know, sometimes you use it or overuse it, and you may not start building the bridge. In fact, you even before you start building the bridge, you start removing the bricks out of it. So I think this is one problem that happens. Many people do this mistake, and even if they start the communication, they actually put the other person off. So what is your opinion, how we can solve this issue among people?
It's a common question that I get asked, and it's a common question that's actually out there in the Google world. How do you engage with your audience? The question is the answer is in the question, because it's about engagement. You and I have often had a discussion about how do people sell? How do you engage with your audience? How do you get known in the digital arena when there's millions of people, in fact, billions of people that are out there doing similar things to you? And the bottom line is really quite simple. You need to understand the phrase, people buy from people. And you and I have said this many times before, CK, but the thing about that phrase is it's always truncated because it's the other end of the phrase that's really important. People buy from people they know and trust. Now, let's differentiate between 2 types of products. One's that is freely available. It's on Amazon. You can become an Amazon affiliate. You can sell it like anybody else. This is just a commodity. It's something that's easily available on the marketplace. And actually what the result there is about price. That's fundamentally what people are going to do. They will run a mile, go the extra mile to get a rupee discount, because that's what it's all about. That's what most people are motivated by. If you look on Facebook Market, you always see, and eBay and all of these other marketplaces, you always see that people are given a rating. And if someone's given a 99.9% seller rating, inside your mind, you're attracted to it. And that's why Facebook and eBay do it. They're recognizing what you're going to be attracted to. Why would you go and buy from this person? So even if you don't know anything about selling and you start to go and sell something on eBay that someone else may have, by the way, you know, you're just drop shipping from somewhere else. It's really down to that percentage. And that means they know and they trust you automatically. You don't even have to do the work. The interesting thing is you're doing all the work because you're responding to people that are buying from you. Even if it's only one person that's bought from you, you can have a really high rating. So you can manipulate these things if you go down the nth route. But the point I'm trying to make is Facebook are trying to tell you what's important. eBay is trying to tell you what's important. And it's that rating that's important. How do you get to that rating? Does this make sense, CK? You've seen all these things. Facebook are doing us a favor, aren't they?
Well, I think you have made a very important point. And whenever I buy stuff from e-commerce website, I always look at the customer reviews, and I actually don't look at the programmable customer reviews because those are biased. As you said that these things can be influenced, I go down further. I think you have to go down further, especially if you're on Amazon, and you have to check the real comments from the customer. So I actually check that, and because of that my speed of ordering on e-commerce website is not very good, because I spend too much time, because I burned my fingers by ordering without looking at terms and conditions, if there is no return policy and there is no feedback from the client. It turns out that the product that you buy is not up to the mark. So the customer feedback is very important when you buy. So I think when you make this point, is absolutely make sense, because whenever you're selling on e-commerce, which is like selling yourself on social media, the feedback is very important. And I think it's very, very true, in my opinion, that the first impression is the only impression you have today. and if you spoil that chance, well, you will lose an opportunity. That's what I feel, Neville.
You're absolutely right, CK. And the reason I ask you, you're my little guinea pig here, is because your opinion counts. Your opinion is like many other people out there that are thinking that way. And yeah, like you, I'm doing exactly the same. I will look at what the customer feedback is. And if there isn't many customer feedbacks, then typically I'll steer away from it. And the interesting thing is, on these big sites, and this is where you can go and experiment. It won't take you a long time, but if you're into selling on the internet, selling a digital service, go and have a good look at Amazon. And go and have a look at a commodity that's freely available anywhere. Not freely, but easily available anywhere. And just go onto Amazon and look at how Amazon help you in your purchase. Not only are they giving you advice of where it comes from, in other words, who's the distributor, not necessarily who's the owner, but who's the distributor. And they compare it to 3 or 4 other products that are out there, could be exactly the same product. And if it's not the same product, they even give you a list of, there are 10 other available at this price. So it gives you all of the things you need to know about making that purchase. And we can learn, as business owners, we can learn a lot about that mentality, that process. They've invested millions in their sales process. So just take a leaf out of their book and have a look at what they're doing. It's not difficult to do. No, I can tell you lots of things, but frankly, you can learn lots of things in 20 minutes just by playing around on the Amazon profile. Even Alibaba. Go into Alibaba and look at the same sort of thing, because these platforms are helping you click out, because that's how they make money too. Remember, they're on commission, so they're trying to make life easier for you. So let's look at the tricks that they use. But fundamentally, they're going back to people buy from people they know and like. And all they're doing is trying to accelerate that process so you can get to know them. And you can get to like them. And it may be you like them because they're a rupee cheaper than anybody else. And that's absolutely fine. You're making the decision. You're the informed customer. So what is it then that is wrong with your digital process, with your sales process? Are you getting people to know you? Or are you doing, as I see, an awful lot of stuff these days, and it's been going on, since the internet was created. People put a YouTube advert on there, and all they do is try and sell it to you. They don't educate you. They don't entertain you. They don't have a laugh with you. They don't make it funny and engaging. Notice we're using one letter here, E. Entertaining, engaging, empowering, because that's what these videos and the communication that you've got needs to do. It needs to empower the user. Hello, we've got this. Lots of other people have got it too. I want to help you make the best decision about where you're going to buy it. Because there's lots of products that are out there that actually there's a me too, and another me too, and another me too, and another me too. And if you notice that all of those me toos in the main are saying the same thing. And if they're smart, they're not overcomplicating it, because all they are is just a middleman. But when you've got something special, this is the thing that I find really frustrating, CK, is when people have got really something special and they don't know how to sell it. Because the thing is, they're trying to sell it, but they shouldn't be trying to sell it. The whole point is we should be educating, entertaining, and empowering someone else to buy it. Why are they buying from you? Are you a nice person? Are you not a nice person? Maybe they don't need to know that, but it depends upon your product as to whether they do need to know it. Any of this making sense, CK? I see you smiling away there, and I'm sure you've had loads of experience and loads of questions that have come to you over the years about this very same thing.
Well, we have a viewer actually who's appreciating, and this is a message from Mr. Amit Singh, who's saying, congratulations, this is incredible. And he is thanking us for sharing the wisdom. So thanking you, Neville, for sharing your wisdom. And he says that keep inspiring, keep igniting, and educating. So thank you so much, Amit, for appreciating the work. And if you have any question, please shoot it out and we will answer that question right away. So Neville, going back to your question, I think the whole point is that when it comes to e-commerce, we have the comfort to check the customer reviews, and based on that we can make a decision. But when it comes to LinkedIn type scenario where you're dependent on the kind of communication coming from the other side, even though you have written long essays, if the communication is not proper, then you are actually spoiling. Instead of building bridges, you are actually spoiling the whole thing. And that is a mistake a lot of people do actually. When it comes to Facebook, it is okay because you can communicate using a messenger and you can do always back and forth. So messenger is more instant. But on LinkedIn, because that is more professional, where a lot of senior people are hooked on, and when these people communicate, sometimes they brush the people in the wrong way. So what is your suggestion when it comes to trying to build bridges using this social media, not so much on the e-commerce, but more on the social media?
Well, it's a great question, CK, and this is all about context now. So, for instance, let me give you a stark context. If I go to into a meeting room, if I start to network, and I go and introduce myself to someone, and typically the conversation goes down, what do you do? Okay, I very rarely say, what do you do? I'm more interested in, how do you make your impact? So immediately you're asking an intriguing question apart from, oh, what do you do? Because the manual says, ask the question, what do you do? And I see you smiling away, but so many people do it. This is about people buying from people, remember. They need to, the whole point of a network arena is getting to know someone else, having a bit of fun, finding out exactly what they do. So when I ask a very direct question when I'm in networking. Where do you make your biggest impact? Now, that's a really simple question to ask when you're face to face like this, and you can have a face to face discussion. But the last thing you want to be doing on LinkedIn is throwing a question out there and say, where do you make the biggest impact? Because people are going to ignore you. Equally, are you interested in personal development? It's a great question, but it's not relevant for that audience. You need to put a story together. And if you notice on LinkedIn, they're now telling you, to put a story up, as they've been doing on Facebook for the last 2 or 3 years, put it to your story. Again, think about what these brilliant platforms are doing and why they're doing it. So what is it about a story on LinkedIn that's important? Because it tells a story about something that someone has achieved using what you do. Not your achievements, because frankly, that's just standing at the top of the Matterhorn, with a huge sound blaster saying, look at me, I'm wonderful. And I'm afraid that doesn't work. It never did work. Not even the big influence in the world can actually stand on the top of Matterhorn and do that. And even the bigger ones might stand at the top of K2. And the real big ones will get to the top of Everest. I mean, you can see where I'm going here. Don't do it. It's a complete and utter waste of time. But it's about your storytelling capability. Can you tell a story? I'm getting messages coming in all the time about, stories really important. Yeah, thanks very much, Neville, and I can see these coming in on the live feed. And it's exciting. It is about storytelling. But how good are you at storytelling? And my question is, you never get good at it until you start practicing. So on LinkedIn, you can do lots of practice. You can have lots of failures along the way. Remember, Edison got to that light bulb over 9,999 failures, apparently. Maybe it wasn't as many as that. Maybe it was more. Does it matter? The point here is he kept trying until he got a formula that worked for him. And then it worked for us because we've got lights everywhere. So it's really about your story, CK. I can't make it simpler than that, really. And if you need to find out how to write a story, Google it. I can tell you. But remember, it's not their story. It's your story. And it's your story not about you, but about somebody else. Somebody else that's benefited from what you do. And then people can relate to that story. I'm afraid you're going to have to become a journalist, CK, if you're going to get any business on LinkedIn.
I think you are right. And that brings me to the next question, which is about canned messages. And this is very important, Neville. I seriously want to ask you about this. See, it's like this. In my opinion, I may be wrong also, but let me repeat what I feel. If you have a canned message, then you can spend your time in choosing the right keywords so that in minimum possible time, you convey the right message. Because you mentioned that, you ask, are you interested in personal development, which people are not, because they think all of us think, we are best people on the world. Who needs personal development? So nobody would need that. But if you design your canned message and you choose the word correctly, appropriately, and you convey the message in like 50 words, and then you use it as a canned message. Because many global gurus says you should not use canned messages because you're not warming up to the people by using canned messages. The way I feel it is, if you try to warm up, it'll take a month and it'll take a real communication back and forth. By the time you realize that, there is no business coming from this person. So warming up will take a lot of time. But instead of that, if you can just send a canned message, you can reach out to 100 people. Out of these 100 people, probably 2 will respond back to you, understanding what you do properly, because you have conveyed a message. But what I'm saying is totally against the global gurus theory. So I wanted to ask you,
what is the right practice? Should you send a canned message to an unknown person and convey what you do, because you don't know the person anyway, and if you're telling him that this is what I do, if you like, write back, hey, I'm interested, etc., and then we can warm up to each other? Or you want people to warm up and then say, hey, this is what I do? What is your opinion on this, Neville?
Well, and another great question, CK, and my simple answer to that is try it. Because, you know, these gurus are only gurus because they've seen something that works today in certain areas. And they're just explaining to you what works for others. If you notice, most of them have never tried it themselves. So for instance, we introduced the Good Morning Akulmach. Now, a lot of people will have remembered that from Good Morning Vietnam. So what you're doing is you're triggering a thought, you're triggering a memory, you're triggering an experience. And if you notice, interestingly enough, the gurus have got it wrong, quite clearly, you know, because all of the adverts on TV are those little messages, 30 seconds. We have lots of adverts in the UK here now where companies actually sponsor programs. They sponsor channels for particular times of day. And there's a particular one that's about travel, and it's a travel company that's sponsoring, I think it's UK drama. And all it shows you is literally a 10-second video, and it says such and such a company sponsors UK drama. And in the background, there's lots of lovely music going on, and all you see is a picture of a big boat going down a canal past a castle or something that's there. It's very visual, but it's like 10 seconds. And it draws you in. And that's the whole point. It's that 10-second or that little meme, that picture that you will send to someone, and it draws them in. And if they're in the right mood, and that's, you can't guarantee what that right mood is. We'll come to that in a minute, okay? Because in the digital space, they suggest that you can actually improve that mood time. But if they're in the right mood, something will trigger up here. So all you've done is you've sent them a picture, you've sent them a little video, an animated video, it could be anything. And if you've sent it to them often enough and they suddenly realize what it is, it starts to trigger the memory, and it comes from the subconscious to the conscious. And when it comes into the conscious mind, you're winning because now they're thinking about you. And we've seen lots and lots of examples here, CK. I remember one of the best marketing examples I've seen was going back to the 80s when Microsoft launched Windows. And we saw, if you remember, there were 4 parts of a jigsaw, and Microsoft had that jigsaw up there for years. It was all part of their marketing. So now you see Windows and it's got this squiggly line, or I think even that's changed. But in the first time, Windows had 4 bits, 4 different colors of a jigsaw. When they launched that, they just sent one piece of the jigsaw out. And all it said was, coming soon, Windows. And everyone thought, what's this? What's this? So you raise anticipation. Now, Microsoft were a very big company then, of course. They're, in comparative purposes, they're probably not as big as they were then, actually, because they were quite unique. Now, today, there are far more competitors out there. But the thing is, string people along. Get them into, and that's not stringing in a nasty way, because you're a nice person. You want them to buy from you. You're offering something that they really should be looking at. So, does it work? Yes. Are the gurus wrong? Quite clearly, yes, because big industries are doing it in a slightly different way, and they wouldn't continue it if it wasn't making them money. Makes it make any sense, CK? I bet you've used it in the past.
Well, I think I got a confirmation from you saying that, there is nothing wrong in sending canned messages, because instead of reaching out to just 10 people using canned message, you can probably reach out to 2000 people. So I think there is nothing wrong, and that is the confirmation. There is a question, Naval, very interesting question from Neetu Kaur Singh, and she wants to know, her question is exactly, how can we pitch by hitting hard? Would you like to answer to Neetu?
Well, I probably need to know a little bit more about the question, but let's try and think about what she's asking there. Hitting hard, the hard hitters. I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube. You know, if you don't do this, this is going to ruin your life. You know, it's a bit like the COVID hitting hard issue that the governments have got. You must stay at home. You've got no option. You know, if you come out, we'll shoot you. I'm joking. I mean, but in essence, that was the feeling people were getting. So you can do hard-hitting messages. You know, if you don't go down the gym, you won't get muscles like mine. Well, perhaps I don't want muscles like yours. You know, so you've actually got to think about what that hard-hitting message really is. You know, COVID will kill you if you don't take look at the messaging, the hard-hitting messaging that some governments are using about the COVID vaccination. Just take a look at what messaging they're doing and look at the response they're getting. You're always going to get a backfire effect from people that say, who do you think you are? You know, well, how are you? What do you mean you're telling me what to do? You've got to be prepared to respond to that backfire. But if your hard-hitting message is telling people the truth, and I'm all for telling people the truth, but remember, some people on the other side need to hear the truth in a soft way. Other people need to hear it in a hard way. And we've only got another hard arena here, you know, global warming, true or false? Now, at the moment, we've probably got 50-50. We've got 50% of saying it's nothing to do with me, and 50% are saying we're going to lose everything. But the point is, it's a hard-hitting message. You've only got to look, you know, several years ago, the Vice President of America, when he, you know, retired from the post, he went out and he went around the world and he was going after this hard-hitting message about global warming. For some people it worked, for others it didn't. So you need to know who your audience is as to whether it's going to work. No? Does that make sense, CK? I mean, it's about audience participation. It's about knowing your customer, knowing really what they want to hear.
Yes, Naval. I think she agrees with what you have explained to her, and I think we've already answered that you can actually choose the right keywords in your canned messages. So Neetu, if you're hearing us out, I think we understand that you now agree with us and your question is answered. If you have any other question, please do type in, and we will respond to your question. Now there is another question from Danisha Singh, which says 100% of you want your business to carry out a message that resembles what you offer or what you believe in. Always make sure that it's true and factually correct, and know your audiences. So this is an observation from Danisha Singh. Any comment on that, Nepal?
Well, she's absolutely right. I mean, the last thing is know your audience. Remember, to have a successful business, you might only need one customer. You don't have to be hugely successful by the number of customers you've got. That one customer might keep you in business for the rest of your life. So it's a simple question, and it's a sort of economics 101 or business 101. If I've got a product and I sell for $1 million and I've only got one customer, is that enough? Well, the answer is, what's your margin? It's quite simple, really. If it's cost you $1,001,001, no, it's not enough. Because you've not actually recovered your cost. But if you've got 1 million customers and you're charging them $1 and you're making a 40% markup, happy days. Because all of a sudden, you know, repeat business after a while, you'll become a millionaire. So it's not rocket science that we're talking here, but it's a lot of common sense. But unfortunately, common sense isn't common practice. I'd just like to sort of leave on a message here of what, just a quick wrap up to what we've been saying. Go and have a look. If you're in the world of entrepreneurship and you are what you might think is that you're a bit of a me too, or even if you're not a me too, this is a perfectly good exercise to do. Go on to eBay. Go and look at how these suppliers are shown to you. If you click on them, you will see lots of ratings. It will say seller confidence, you know, feedback. This person gets 99.6% feedback. Then have a look at the feedback they're getting. You can do the same on Amazon, because Amazon do the same thing. I get it all the time. I buy quite a bit off Amazon. Some of it because I'm interested and I want to see what's going on. Others because I really do need the product. But Amazon will go back to you and say, have you given feedback? Did you like this product? What was it you liked about the product? So your challenge today, and it's a simple challenge, is go and have a look at what these big platforms are doing and learn from them, because it's the best learning place ever. I mean, they've spent millions of dollars on their platform. They have hundreds of thousands of sellers on their platform. Some are very happy about being on the platform, some aren't happy. But just take a look at what other people are doing. You're not copying them, you're just taking best practice. And this is about common sense. Common sense is about taking good practice from somewhere else and applying it in your arena. It's the simplest message we can have today, and it's all about people buying from people. So take the experience that's out there and apply it into your business.
Naval, thank you so much for finding time and giving your wisdom to us and our viewers. And thank you so much, viewers, to participate and ask questions, especially Danisha, Neetu, and Amit. Please join back tomorrow at 12 noon India time. We'll be back again with some other interesting business subject along with Naval. So Naval, I like to say goodbye for today, only to catch you tomorrow.